Elena Martinez fell to her knees on the cold marble floor, her hands trembling as two police officers grabbed her arms. "Please," she begged, her voice breaking. "I have worked here for 7 years. I have never stolen anything in my life." Victoria Hartwell stood at the top of the grand staircase, watching with ice in her eyes and a thin smile curling at the corner of her lips. "Take her away," Victoria said, calmly smoothing down her silk blouse as if she were dismissing a stain on the carpet. "That woman stole an $8 million diamond from my family, and I want the whole world to know what happens when the help forgets their place." Upstairs, a child's scream pierced the air. "Mama Elena! Mama Elena!" 8-year-old Lucas Hartwell broke free from his nanny and came flying down the stairs, his face twisted with terror. He fought to reach Elena, but Victoria grabbed his arm with iron fingers. "Let me go!" Lucas screamed. "She did not do it! I know she did not do it! I saw what really happened." Victoria's face went white. Before we continue with this incredible story, please subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell. I want you to stay with me until the very end, because what happens next will shock you. And please comment below and tell me what city you are watching from. I love knowing how far this story travels. Now let me take you back to where it all began. Elena Martinez stepped off the bus in Greenwich, Connecticut, on a freezing January morning 7 years before that terrible day. She was 41 years old, a widow, no children. 15 years in America, working jobs that broke her body and tested her spirit. She had scrubbed floors until her knees bled. She had washed dishes until her hands cracked open. She had cleaned hotel rooms where guests left behind horrors she could never unsee. But Elena never complained. The employment agency had called her about the Hartwell position 3 days earlier. She almost said no. Rich families scared her. She had seen how they looked at workers like her, like furniture, like nothing. But the salary was 3 times what she made now, and Elena was tired of being poor. So she walked up the long driveway of the Hartwell mansion, her breath forming clouds in the frozen air, and knocked on the servants' entrance. A woman opened the door. Gray hair pulled back tight, eyes that cut like broken glass. This was Mrs. Patterson, the head housekeeper. "You are the new girl." "Yes, ma'am." "Can you work 12 hours without complaining?" "Yes, ma'am." "Can you be invisible when the family needs you to be invisible?" "Yes, ma'am." Mrs. Patterson leaned closer. Her voice dropped to a whisper. "Can you keep secrets? Because this family has secrets, girl. And if you cannot keep them, you will not last 1 week." Elena felt a chill that had nothing to do with the weather, but she needed this job. "I can keep secrets, ma'am." Mrs. Patterson studied her for a long moment. Then she stepped aside. "We will see." Elena learned the rules of the Hartwell mansion quickly. Rule 1, never speak unless spoken to. Rule 2, never look the family in the eye. Rule 3, never ever enter Mrs. Victoria Hartwell's private quarters without permission. Victoria Hartwell was 70 years old, but she moved like a woman half that age. Silver hair always perfect, designer clothes that cost more than Elena earned in a year, and eyes that missed nothing. Victoria had built the Hartwell empire alongside her late husband. When he died of a heart attack 15 years ago, she kept building it alone. She raised her son Richard to be exactly what she wanted: obedient, successful, controlled. But Richard had made one mistake. He had married a woman named Catherine. Catherine came from a middle-class family in Ohio. No money, no connections, no social standing. Victoria called her common and unsuitable, and warned Richard he was destroying the family legacy. But Richard married her anyway. It was the only time in his life he defied his mother. Victoria never forgave him. Elena met Catherine on her 3rd day at the mansion. She was dusting the library when a soft voice said, "You must be the new housekeeper." Elena turned. Catherine Hartwell stood in the doorway, a baby boy in her arms. She had honey blonde hair and warm eyes, and a smile that made Elena feel human for the first time in years. "Yes, ma'am, I am Elena." "Please call me Catherine." She bounced the baby gently. And this little monster is Lucas. He is 14 months old, and he already thinks he runs this house." Elena smiled despite herself. "He is beautiful." "He is trouble," Catherine laughed. "But he is my trouble." She studied Elena for a moment. "Mrs. Patterson is hard on new staff. Do not let her scare you away. This house needs kind people." Elena did not know what to say. No one in this house had been kind to her yet. "Thank you, ma'am. I mean Catherine." Catherine smiled again. Then she walked away, humming softly to her son. Elena watched her go, feeling something strange in her chest. Hope, maybe. Over the next 4 months, Elena worked harder than she had ever worked in her life. She cleaned every room until it sparkled. She cooked meals that made even Mrs. Patterson nod with approval. She learned every corner of the mansion, every preference of every family member. But she noticed things too. She noticed that Richard Hartwell was never home. He left before dawn and returned after midnight, his eyes empty, his shoulders bent under invisible weight. She noticed that Victoria watched Catherine with cold hatred, following her movements like a predator tracking prey. And she noticed that Catherine was getting thinner. The first time Elena saw the prescription bottles on Catherine's nightstand, she said nothing. The second time, she counted 12 different medications. The third time, she heard Catherine crying behind her bedroom door at 2 a.m. Elena stood in the hallway, her hand raised to knock. She did not knock. It was not her place. 2 weeks later, Catherine summoned Elena to her bedroom. Elena walked in expecting to be criticized, maybe fired. Instead, she found Catherine sitting in a chair by the window, a blanket wrapped around her thin shoulders. She had lost 20 pounds since Elena first met her. Her skin was gray. Her hands trembled. "Close the door, Elena. Please." Elena closed it. "Sit down." Elena sat on the edge of the bed, her heart pounding. Catherine was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was barely a whisper. "I am dying." Elena felt the words hit her like a physical blow. "Ma'am, the doctors found it too late. Pancreatic cancer. They say I have maybe 8 months, maybe less." Catherine smiled, but there was no joy in it. "I have made my peace with God, but I have not made my peace with leaving my son." Elena's eyes filled with tears. "I am so sorry. Richard cannot handle this. He loves Lucas, but he does not know how to show it. When I am gone, he will bury himself in work. He will become a ghost in his own house." Catherine's voice cracked. "And Victoria—" She stopped. Elena waited. "Victoria has wanted me gone since the day Richard brought me home," Catherine continued. "She tolerates me because Richard insisted. But when I die, there will be nothing stopping her. She will take control of Lucas. She will raise him the way she raised Richard, cold, controlled, afraid." Catherine reached out and grabbed Elena's hand. Her grip was weak, but her eyes burned with desperate intensity. "I need you to protect him, Elena." "Ma'am, I have watched you these past months. I have seen how you look at Lucas, how you smile when he laughs, how you check on him when you think no one is watching." Catherine squeezed her hand harder. "You have a mother's heart. I can see it. And my son is going to need a mother when I am gone." Elena felt tears streaming down her face. "I do not understand what you are asking." "Love him," Catherine whispered. "Love him like he is your own. Protect him from Victoria. Be there for him when everyone else fails him." Her voice broke. "Please, Elena, promise me." Elena looked at this dying woman, this stranger who was asking her to do the most sacred thing one person could ask of another. "I promise," Elena whispered. "I will love him. I will protect him. I swear on my mother's grave." Catherine closed her eyes. A single tear rolled down her cheek. "Thank you," she breathed. "Thank you." From that day forward, everything changed. Elena became Lucas's shadow. She was there when he took his first steps, her arms outstretched to catch him. She was there when he said his first word, which was more, because he wanted more of her homemade cookies. She was there for every fever, every nightmare, every scraped knee. Catherine watched from her bed as her son bonded with Elena. And instead of jealousy, she felt only peace. "You are keeping your promise," Catherine said one afternoon, watching Elena rock Lucas to sleep. "I can die knowing he will be loved." "Do not say that," Elena whispered. "Do not talk about dying. We both know the truth." Catherine reached out and touched Elena's cheek. "You are a good woman, Elena Martinez. Better than anyone in this house deserves." Catherine Hartwell died on a Tuesday in March, 8 months after that conversation. She died in her sleep with Richard holding one hand and Elena holding the other. Lucas was too young to understand. He wandered through the mansion for days, calling for his mama, not understanding why she would not come. He stood outside her bedroom door, pressing his tiny hands against the wood, crying until his voice disappeared. Elena held him through all of it. She rocked him for hours. She let him soak her blouse with tears. She whispered to him in Spanish, telling him his mama was watching from heaven, that his mama loved him more than all the stars in the sky. Slowly, Lucas stopped asking for Catherine. He started asking for Elena instead. "Mama Elena," he called her one night, half asleep in her arms. Elena froze. She should correct him. She should tell him she was not his mama. She was just the housekeeper. But she looked at his face so peaceful, so trusting, and she could not do it. "I am here, mi amor," she whispered. "Mama Elena is here." Victoria Hartwell heard those words from the hallway, and something inside her turned to ice. Victoria moved into the mansion 2 weeks after the funeral. She claimed it was to help Richard during his grief. She claimed it was to be there for her grandson. Elena knew the truth. Victoria was there to take control. It started small. Victoria donated all of Catherine's clothes without asking Richard. She removed Catherine's photographs from the common areas. She fired the staff members who had been loyal to Catherine. Then she tried to fire Elena. "That woman is getting too familiar," Victoria told Richard one evening. Elena was in the kitchen, but she could hear every word through the open door. "Lucas calls her mama. It is inappropriate." Richard's voice was tired. "He is 2 years old, Mother. He does not understand. Then teach him to understand. Fire her. Hire a proper nanny. Elena is good with him. She is the help, Richard. Nothing more." Elena held her breath. Richard was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "I will think about it." Elena did not sleep that night. She lay in her small room in the servants' quarters, staring at the ceiling, waiting for the axe to fall. But it did not fall. The next morning, Lucas threw the worst tantrum anyone had ever seen. He screamed for 2 hours straight. He refused to eat. He made himself sick. "He is asking for Elena," the nanny reported to Richard, her face pale with exhaustion. Richard looked at his screaming son. Then he looked at his mother. "Elena stays," he said. Victoria's eyes went cold, but she said nothing. She had lost this battle, but she would not lose the war. Over the next 6 years, Victoria tried everything to remove Elena from the house. She criticized her cooking. She complained about her cleaning. She accused her of stealing small items, of being lazy, of poisoning Lucas's mind against the family. Every time Richard defended Elena, "The boy needs stability," he would say. "Elena provides that." Victoria seethed, but she waited. She watched Elena and Lucas grow closer every year. She watched Lucas run to Elena instead of her. She heard him laugh with Elena in ways he never laughed with anyone else. She saw Richard sometimes pause at the kitchen door, watching Elena sing, while she cooked, a soft expression on his face, a familiar expression, the same way he used to look at Catherine. One evening, Victoria called her personal lawyer to her private quarters. His name was Theodore Morrison. He was 65 years old, the most ruthless attorney in Connecticut, and he had served the Hartwell family for 30 years. "I need your advice," Victoria said, "on a delicate matter." Theodore sat across from her, his notepad ready. "I am listening." "There is a servant in this house who has become a problem. She has wormed her way into my grandson's affections. She has made herself indispensable, and I want her gone. Fire her." "I cannot. My son protects her." Victoria's voice turned bitter. Richard is weak. He always has been. He let that woman Catherine wrap him around her finger, and now he is letting the help do the same thing. Theodore nodded slowly. What do you want me to do? Victoria leaned forward. I want options. Legal options. Ways to remove this woman permanently so that she can never return. Theodore was quiet for a moment. Then he said, if she were accused of a crime, a serious crime, theft perhaps, with evidence, even false evidence, she would be arrested, prosecuted, convicted. She would lose everything. Victoria's eyes glittered. Go on. She is an immigrant with no money and no connections. Against the Hartwell name, she would have no chance. The courts would believe you. The media would believe you. She would be destroyed. Victoria smiled for the first time in months. I knew I could count on you, Theodore. The trap was set on an autumn evening, 6 years after Catherine's death. Elena was preparing dinner when Mrs. Patterson appeared in the kitchen doorway. Mrs. Hartwell wants to see you, in her private quarters, now. Elena's stomach dropped. In 7 years, she had never been summoned to Victoria's private rooms. Did she say why? Mrs. Patterson's face was unreadable. Just go. Elena wiped her hands and walked up the stairs. Her heart pounded with every step. Something was wrong. She could feel it. Victoria's door was open. Elena knocked anyway. Come in. Victoria sat at her vanity desk. On the desk sat a velvet box. Inside the box, catching the light like frozen fire, was the most beautiful jewel Elena had ever seen. A diamond, enormous and blue, worth more than Elena would earn in 100 lifetimes. Victoria did not turn around. She watched Elena's reflection in the mirror. Do you know what this is? No, ma'am. This is the Hartwell diamond. My husband gave it to me on our wedding night. It has been in this family for 5 generations. Victoria's voice was cold. It is worth $8 million. Elena said nothing. She did not understand why Victoria was telling her this. I want you to clean it. Elena blinked. Ma'am, are you deaf? I want you to clean it, polish it, make it shine. Mrs. Patterson usually handles the valuables. Victoria finally turned around. Her eyes locked onto Elena's face like a snake watching a mouse. Mrs. Patterson is busy. I am asking you. Unless you are refusing a direct order. Elena's instincts screamed at her to run. Something was very wrong. Victoria had never trusted her with anything valuable. Why now? But refusing would give Victoria exactly what she wanted. Yes, ma'am, Elena said quietly. She took the diamond with trembling hands. She cleaned it carefully, exactly as she had seen Mrs. Patterson clean the silver. When she finished, she placed it back in the velvet box. Where should I put it, ma'am? In my jewelry cabinet, the top drawer. Elena opened the cabinet and placed the box inside. She closed the drawer. Is there anything else, ma'am? Victoria's smile made Elena's blood run cold. No, that will be all. Elena left the room as fast as she could. Her hands were shaking. Her heart was racing. She told herself she was being paranoid. She had cleaned the diamond. She had returned it. There was nothing to worry about. She was wrong. 3 days later, Elena was in the kitchen when she heard the sirens. She looked out the window. 2 police cars were coming up the driveway, their lights flashing red and blue. Her first thought was Lucas. Something had happened to Lucas at school. She ran to the front of the house. Richard was already at the door, his face pale with confusion. Victoria stood behind him, and for just 1 second, Elena saw something flash across Victoria's face. Triumph. Richard Hartwell, the lead officer asked. Yes. What is this about? We have received a report of a theft from your property, an $8 million diamond. Richard turned to his mother. What, mother? What are they talking about? Victoria pressed a handkerchief to her eyes. When she spoke, her voice trembled with theatrical grief. Oh, Richard, I did not want to tell you this way. The diamond, your father's diamond, it is gone. She lowered the handkerchief and pointed directly at Elena. And that woman took it. The world stopped. Elena felt the blood drain from her face. Her mouth opened, but no words came out. That is impossible, Richard said. Elena has been with us for 7 years. She would never. I gave her the diamond to clean 3 days ago, Victoria interrupted. I checked my cabinet this morning. The diamond is gone. She was the only person who touched it. The only person. The officers looked at Elena. Ma'am, did you have access to the diamond? Elena's voice came out as a whisper. Yes. She asked me to clean it, but I put it back. I swear I put it back. She is lying, Victoria said flatly. Search her room. Search her belongings. You will find the evidence. Wait. Richard held up his hand. This does not make sense. Mother, are you absolutely certain? Are you questioning me? Victoria's voice turned sharp as a blade. After everything I have done for this family, that woman is a thief, Richard. She has been stealing our trust for 7 years, and now she has stolen something that can never be replaced. Richard fell silent. Elena saw the surrender in his eyes, the same surrender she had seen 100 times before. His whole life he had never stood up to his mother. He was not going to start now. The officers moved toward Elena. Ma'am, you need to come with us. I did not take anything. Elena's voice rose with panic. Please, someone believe me. I have worked here for 7 years. I have never stolen anything in my life. You can explain at the station. They grabbed her arms. Elena struggled, but they held her tight. And then she heard it. A scream that shattered the air. Mama, Elena! Lucas came flying down the stairs. His 8-year-old face twisted with terror. He tried to reach Elena, but Victoria grabbed his arm. Let me go, Lucas screamed. Mama, Elena! Lucas, go to your room, Victoria commanded. No, she did not do it. Mama Elena would never steal anything. Let her go. Elena looked at the boy she had raised for 7 years, the child she loved more than her own life. Tears poured down her face. Lucas, listen to me, she called out as the officers pulled her toward the door. I did not do this. Do you hear me? I did not do this. I love you. I will always love you, no matter what happens. Mama Elena, Daddy, stop them. Daddy, do something. Richard stood frozen. His son's screams, Elena's tears, his mother's cold satisfaction. He did nothing. The officers dragged Elena outside. The last thing she saw before the door closed was Lucas struggling against Victoria's grip, screaming her name until his voice broke. Then the door slammed shut, and Elena's nightmare began. At the police station, they put Elena in a gray room with concrete walls and a metal table bolted to the floor. They left her there for 3 hours. No water, no food, no explanation. When the detective finally entered, he did not introduce himself. He just sat down across from her and opened a folder. Elena Martinez, born in Mexico City, immigrated to the United States 15 years ago, worked as a domestic servant for multiple families, now employed by the Hartwells. He looked up. Is that correct? Yes. Did you have access to Mrs. Victoria Hartwell's jewelry cabinet? Only when she asked me to clean something. And 3 days ago, she asked you to clean an $8 million diamond. Yes. Did you return the diamond to the cabinet? Yes, I put it exactly where she told me to put it. The detective leaned back. His eyes were cold. Here is the problem, Ms. Martinez. The Hartwells are one of the most powerful families in this state. They donate millions to charity. They fund hospitals and schools. They have connections in every level of government. He leaned forward. And you are a Mexican housekeeper with no money, no lawyer, and no one who cares whether you live or die. Elena felt something inside her crack. I am telling the truth. Everyone says that. The detective closed the folder. We searched your room. We found $300 in cash hidden under your mattress. Where did that money come from? I saved it. From my salary. I have been saving for 2 years. Or you sold the diamond and this is what is left. No, that is not true. Mrs. Hartwell says you have been acting suspicious for weeks. Other staff members say you have been asking questions about the family's valuables. One witness says you were seen near Mrs. Hartwell's quarters late at night. Elena shook her head. That is all lies. Someone is lying. Who? Who would lie to frame a housekeeper? Elena knew the answer, but she also knew no one would believe her. "I want a lawyer," she said quietly. The detective laughed. "Good luck affording one." They released Elena on bail late that night. A Catholic charity that helped immigrants in legal trouble paid the $5,000. The woman at the charity office looked at Elena with sad eyes. "I wish I could do more," she said. "But against the Hartwells." She shook her head. "I will pray for you." Elena walked out of the police station into the freezing darkness. She had no car, no money for a taxi, so she walked 5 miles to her tiny apartment, 5 miles in the cold, with tears freezing on her cheeks. By the time she reached her door, Elena felt hollow, empty, like someone had reached inside her and removed everything that made her human. She sat on her bed and looked at her hands, the same hands that had cleaned Victoria's diamonds so carefully, the same hands that had held Lucas when he was a baby, that had wiped his tears, that had cooked his meals, that had tucked him in every night for 7 years. Those hands had never stolen anything, but now the whole world would think they had. Elena did not sleep. She sat by the window and watched the sunrise, wondering how everything had fallen apart so fast. In the morning, the newspapers came. Elena's face was on the front page. Hartwell housekeeper arrested in $8 million diamond theft. She read the article 3 times. Each time she felt more of her soul die. The article called her an immigrant domestic worker. It quoted Victoria extensively, describing Elena as a trusted employee who betrayed our family's faith. It mentioned that the diamond had been in the Hartwell family for 5 generations. It noted that Elena had no prior criminal record that authorities were aware of. That last phrase was clever. It made it sound like she had a criminal record that authorities were not aware of. Richard Hartwell was quoted as saying only, "We are cooperating with the investigation." Not "Elena is innocent," not "We believe there has been a mistake," just cold corporate speak. Elena put down the newspaper and cried until she had no tears left. The media storm grew worse every day. Television news ran the story every hour. Cable shows debated whether Elena was a master thief or just a common criminal. Social media exploded with hatred. Deport her. This is what happens when you trust immigrants. She should rot in prison. $8 million. She probably has family in Mexico laughing right now. Elena stopped going outside. Reporters camped in front of her apartment. They shouted questions every time she opened the door. "Elena, did you steal the diamond? Elena, where is the diamond now? Elena, do you have any comment for the Hartwell family?" She stopped answering her phone. She stopped eating. She stopped doing anything except sitting by the window, holding the photograph of Lucas she kept on her nightstand. "I am sorry, mi amor," she whispered to his smiling face. "I am so sorry." A week passed, then 2. The court date was set for 3 weeks away. Elena was being charged with grand theft, $8 million. If convicted, she would spend the rest of her life in prison. Elena had no lawyer. The public defender assigned to her case met with her once for 15 minutes. He was young, overwhelmed, and clearly did not care whether she was innocent or guilty. "Look," he said, shuffling through papers without looking at her. "The Hartwells have hired Theodore Morrison, best criminal lawyer in the state. He has never lost a case. My advice, take a plea deal. Confess, return the diamond, serve 5 to 10 years. It is better than life." "I did not steal anything. That is what everyone says. I am telling the truth." He finally looked at her. His eyes were tired and empty. "Miss Martinez, in my experience, the truth does not matter. What matters is who has the better lawyer, and trust me, you do not." He packed up his files and left. Elena sat alone in the meeting room, feeling smaller than she had ever felt in her life. That night, there was a knock at her apartment door. Elena's heart stopped. She crept to the door and looked through the peephole. A young woman stood outside, Asian, late 20s, with long black hair and wire-rimmed glasses. She was holding a worn briefcase and looking nervously over her shoulder at the reporters down the street. "Ms. Martinez," the woman called through the door. "My name is Sarah Chen. I am a lawyer. I want to help you." Elena did not move. "I know you have no reason to trust anyone right now," Sarah continued, "but I have been following your case and I do not think you are guilty. Please, just give me 10 minutes. Elena thought about the public defender, about the reporters, about Victoria's cold smile. What did she have to lose? She opened the door. Sarah Chen stepped inside, quickly closing the door behind her. "Thank you," she said, slightly breathless. "I was afraid those reporters would see me." "Who are you?" Elena asked. "I told you, I am a lawyer." "Well, I passed the bar exam 6 months ago, so barely a lawyer." Sarah smiled nervously. "I work for a small firm in New Haven, pro bono cases mostly. Immigrants, low-income defendants, people who cannot afford representation." "Why do you want to help me?" Sarah's smile faded. "Because I watched Victoria Hartwell's press conference last week. I watched her call you a thief. I watched her cry for the cameras." Sarah's voice hardened. "And I saw her smile when she thought no one was looking." Elena felt a chill. "I do not think you stole that diamond, Miss Martinez," Sarah continued. "I think someone set you up, and I want to prove it." Elena studied this young woman. She saw determination in her eyes, and something else. Anger. "Why do you care so much?" Sarah was quiet for a moment. "My grandmother was a housekeeper," she finally said. "She worked for a wealthy family for 30 years. When she retired, they accused her of stealing silver. She was innocent, but she could not afford to fight it. She died with that accusation following her everywhere." Sarah's voice cracked. "I became a lawyer because of her. I swore I would never let another innocent woman be destroyed by people with money and power." She met Elena's eyes. "I am not going to let them do it to you." Elena felt tears burning in her eyes. "I cannot pay you. I do not want your money. The Hartwells will destroy you too. Let them try." Elena looked at Sarah Chen, the stranger who had knocked on her door offering hope when everyone else offered only judgment. "Okay," Elena whispered. "Help me." Sarah worked around the clock for the next 2 weeks. She reviewed every document in the case. She interviewed anyone who would talk. She dug into the Hartwell family history with relentless determination. What she found made her blood run cold. Elena Victoria has done this before. They were sitting at Elena's tiny kitchen table, surrounded by stacks of paper and old newspaper clippings. "What do you mean?" 20 years ago, a gardener was accused of stealing equipment from the Hartwell estate. No charges were filed, but the man was fired and his reputation was destroyed. He could never work in Greenwich again. Sarah pulled out another clipping. 15 years ago, a cook was accused of stealing wine from the cellar. Same pattern. No proof, but she was fired and blacklisted. Another clipping. 10 years ago, a driver. Same thing. Elena felt sick. Every single person Victoria wanted gone, she accused of theft, Sarah said. And every single time she won. No one has ever fought back. No one has ever had the resources to fight back. Until now, Elena said quietly. Sarah nodded. Until now. But proving Victoria's pattern was not enough. They needed evidence that Elena had been framed. "The security cameras," Elena said suddenly. "There are cameras everywhere in that mansion. They must have recorded something." Sarah's eyes lit up. "You are right. I will file a motion to get the footage." 3 days later, Sarah received the response from the Hartwell legal team. Her face was gray when she showed Elena the letter. The camera outside Victoria's quarters was turned off the night the diamond disappeared. They claim it was a technical malfunction. No footage is available. Elena closed her eyes. "It was not a malfunction," she whispered. "I know." Sarah slammed the file on the table. "But we cannot prove it, not without someone on the inside willing to talk." "No one will talk. They are all afraid of Victoria." "Then we need something else, something she did not expect." Sarah thought for a long moment. "The diamond. If Victoria still has it, she will slip up eventually. She is arrogant. She thinks she has already won." Sarah looked at Elena. "We need to watch her, and we need to wait." Elena nodded. But waiting was torture. Every night Elena dreamed of Lucas, his smile, his laugh, the way he used to run to her when he came home from school. She wondered if he still believed in her. She wondered if he was okay. She got her answer 12 days before the trial. It was past midnight. Elena was sitting by the window, unable to sleep, when she heard a sound outside. A soft knock at the door. Elena crept to the peephole. Her heart stopped. Lucas stood outside. His face was dirty. His clothes were torn. His eyes were red from crying. Elena threw open the door. "Lucas, what are you doing here? How did you get here?" "I ran away." His voice was trembling. "I had to see you, Mama Elena. I had to tell you something." Elena pulled him inside and wrapped her arms around him. "You cannot be here, mi amor. If your grandmother finds out, I do not care about Grandma." Lucas looked up at her, his young face fierce with determination. "I know something, Mama Elena. Something important." Elena's heart began to pound. "What do you mean?" Lucas took a deep breath. "The night the diamond disappeared, I woke up to get water, and I saw Grandma in the hallway." Elena froze. She was coming out of her office, not her bedroom, her office, and she was holding something shiny. Lucas's voice dropped to a whisper. "And she was smiling, Mama Elena, smiling in a way that scared me." Elena gripped Lucas's shoulders. "Did you tell anyone?" "I told Grandma the next morning. She said I was dreaming. She said I should never talk about it again." Lucas's eyes filled with tears. "But I was not dreaming. I know what I saw. And then they took you away, and everybody said you stole the diamond, and I knew it was wrong. I knew it was not true." Elena held him tight, tears streaming down her face. "You brave, beautiful boy," she whispered. "You brave, beautiful boy." An hour later, Richard Hartwell's car pulled up outside Elena's apartment. Elena watched from the window. Lucas was asleep on her couch, exhausted from his long journey. Richard got out of the car. He looked 10 years older than when Elena had last seen him. He walked to the door and knocked. Elena opened it. For a long moment, they just looked at each other. "Is he here?" Richard asked quietly. "He is sleeping." Richard nodded. He did not ask to come in. "I have been driving around for 3 hours looking for him," Richard said. "I called the police. I thought—" His voice broke. "I thought something terrible had happened." "He walked here, 5 miles in the dark." Richard closed his eyes. "He wanted to see you that badly. He wanted to tell me the truth." Elena's voice was steady. "He saw something, Richard, the night the diamond disappeared. He saw Victoria in the hallway. He saw her holding something. He tried to tell her the next morning, and she told him he was dreaming." Richard's face went pale. "That is not possible. Your son does not lie. You know that." Richard was silent for a long time. Elena watched the war playing out behind his eyes. His mother's voice against his son's truth. A lifetime of obedience against everything he was hearing now. "I do not know what to believe anymore," he finally whispered. "Then believe your son," Elena said. "He has no reason to lie. He came here in the middle of the night risking everything just to tell me what he saw." Her voice softened. "He is braver than both of us, Richard. He is braver than you have ever been." Richard flinched like she had slapped him, but he did not argue. "Can I take him home?" he asked. "He is your son." Richard nodded slowly. Then he met Elena's eyes. "I am going to look into this. I am going to find out what really happened." "Be careful," Elena said. "Your mother is dangerous." "I know." Richard's voice was barely audible. "I have always known." He walked past her into the apartment. He lifted Lucas gently from the couch, cradling him like he was still a baby. Lucas stirred. "Daddy, I am here, son. I am taking you home. Is Mama Elena going to be okay?" Richard looked at Elena over his shoulder. "Yes," he said. "Mama Elena is going to be okay." He carried Lucas to the car and drove away. Elena stood in the doorway watching the taillights disappear into the darkness. For the first time in weeks, she felt something other than despair. She felt hope, but hope was dangerous. Because back at the Hartwell mansion, Victoria was waiting in her office. She had seen Richard leave. She had seen the look on his face when he returned, and she knew something had changed. Victoria picked up her phone and dialed Theodore Morrison. "We have a problem," she said coldly. "My grandson has been talking. We need to move up the trial, and we need to make sure that woman never speaks to anyone in this family again." She hung up. Then she walked to her safe, opened it, and looked at the blue diamond glittering inside. "You should have stayed in your place, Elena," Victoria whispered to the empty room. "Now I am going to destroy you, and no one will ever know the truth." Richard Hartwell did not sleep that night. He sat in his home office until 4 a.m, staring at the wall, replaying his son's words over and over in his mind. Lucas had never lied to him, not once in 8 years. The boy was incapable of deception. So why would he make up a story about seeing his grandmother with the diamond? Unless it was not a story. At 5 a.m, Richard made a decision. He got up from his desk, walked down the hallway, and stopped outside his mother's office door. His hand hovered over the handle. His heart pounded so hard he could hear it in his ears. He had never entered his mother's office without permission. Not once in 45 years. But Lucas's face kept appearing in his mind, those desperate eyes, that trembling voice. Richard turned the handle and walked in. The office was dark. He fumbled for the light switch and flipped it on. Everything looked normal. The mahogany desk, the leather chairs, the bookshelf lined with first editions, nothing out of place. Richard walked to the desk and opened the top drawer. Papers, pens, a letter opener. Nothing unusual. He checked the second drawer. Files, contracts, old photographs. He was about to close it when something caught his eye. A small key, hidden beneath the photographs. A key he had never seen before. Richard picked it up. It was old, made of brass, with a strange symbol etched into the handle. What did this key open? He searched the office for 30 minutes, behind the paintings, under the rug, inside the books. Nothing. Then he noticed something strange about the bookshelf. One section seemed slightly different from the others. The wood was newer, less worn. Richard pushed against it. The section swung open like a door. Behind it was a wall safe. Richard's hands were shaking as he inserted the brass key. It fit perfectly. He turned it. The safe clicked open. Inside, resting on black velvet, was the Hartwell diamond. Richard staggered backward. His breath came in short gasps. The diamond was here, in his mother's safe, the same diamond she had accused Elena of stealing. His mother had lied. His mother had framed an innocent woman. His mother had nearly destroyed a life to satisfy her hatred. Richard reached into the safe with trembling hands. He lifted the diamond and held it up to the light. It sparkled like frozen tears. "What are you doing?" Richard spun around. Victoria stood in the doorway. She was wearing her silk robe, her silver hair loose around her shoulders. Her eyes were fixed on the diamond in his hand. "Mother." Richard's voice was barely a whisper. "What have you done?" Victoria's expression did not change. She walked into the office and closed the door behind her. "Put that back, Richard." "You lied. You had the diamond the whole time. You framed Elena." "I did what was necessary." "Necessary." Richard's voice rose. "You destroyed an innocent woman's life. You had her arrested. You dragged her name through the mud. For what?" Victoria's eyes went cold. "For this family. For you. For Lucas. Lucas loves her." "That is precisely the problem." Victoria's voice was ice. "That woman was taking my place. She was taking your wife's place. Lucas called her Mama. He ran to her instead of me. And you," her voice cracked with sudden emotion, "you looked at her the same way you looked at Catherine." Richard stepped back. "That is insane." "Is it?" Victoria moved closer. "I watched you, Richard. For years I watched you standing in doorways, watching her cook, watching her sing to Lucas. You were falling in love with the help, just like you fell in love with Catherine. This has nothing to do with love. This is about you wanting control. This is about protecting our legacy. Victoria's composure finally broke. I built this family from nothing. Your father and I sacrificed everything to give you this life, and I will not let some Mexican housekeeper destroy it. Richard stared at his mother like he was seeing her for the first time. You are not protecting anything, he said quietly. You are destroying everything, and I am going to stop you. He turned toward the door. If you go to the police, I will deny everything, Victoria called after him. It will be your word against mine. And I have Theodore Morrison. I have connections in every courthouse in this state. No one will believe you. Richard stopped. Maybe not, he said without turning around. But Lucas will, and that is enough for me. He walked out of the office, the diamond still clutched in his hand. Victoria watched him go. Her face was pale. Her hands were shaking. For the first time in her life, she had lost control of her son. She picked up the phone and dialed Theodore Morrison. We have a problem, she said. Richard knows. 7 days before the trial, Sarah Chen was in her office when her phone rang. She answered on the first ring. Ms. Chen, this is Richard Hartwell. Sarah nearly dropped the phone. Mr. Hartwell, I was not expecting to hear from you. I found the diamond. Sarah's heart stopped. What? It was in my mother's safe. She had it the whole time. Elena is innocent. Sarah closed her eyes. Her hands were trembling. Mr. Hartwell, do you understand what you are saying? You are accusing your own mother of... I know what I am accusing her of, and I am prepared to testify in court. Sarah was silent for a long moment. Why are you doing this? Richard's voice cracked. Because my son walked 5 miles in the middle of the night to tell me the truth. Because an innocent woman is about to go to prison for something she did not do. Because I have spent my entire life being a coward, and I cannot do it anymore. Sarah felt tears burning in her eyes. Meet me at my office tomorrow morning, she said. Bring the diamond. Bring any evidence you have, and be prepared to face your mother in court. I will be there. Richard hung up. Sarah sat in silence for a long moment. Then she picked up the phone and called Elena. Elena, it is Sarah. I have news. Good news. Elena's voice was barely audible. What is it? Richard Hartwell found the diamond in his mother's safe. He is going to testify on your behalf. There was a long silence. Then Elena started to cry. 6 days before the trial. Victoria Hartwell called an emergency meeting with Theodore Morrison at her mansion. They sat in her private office, the door locked, the curtains drawn. Richard has betrayed us, Victoria said flatly. He took the diamond. He is going to testify for that woman. Theodore Morrison leaned back in his chair. He was a heavy-set man with cold gray eyes and a reputation for winning cases that seemed unwinnable. That complicates things, he admitted, but it does not change our strategy. Explain. Richard is emotionally unstable. He lost his wife 6 years ago. He has been distant and uninvolved as a father. He has guilt issues. We can argue that he is not a reliable witness, that he is being manipulated by the defense, that he found the diamond in your safe because you put it there for safekeeping after Elena stole it and returned it. Victoria's eyes narrowed. And the boy Lucas saw me that night. Children make unreliable witnesses. Their memories are easily influenced. We can argue that Lucas was coached by Elena or by Richard. A good expert witness can testify that children often create false memories based on suggestions from adults. Victoria nodded slowly. What about the staff? Someone might talk. They will not. Theodore's voice was cold. I have spoken with each of them personally. They understand what is at stake. Anyone who testifies against you will never work in this state again. Victoria smiled for the first time. Good. I want that woman destroyed, Theodore. I want her in prison. I want her name ruined forever. I want Lucas to forget she ever existed. That is what I intend to deliver. 5 days before the trial. Sarah Chen visited Elena at her apartment to prepare for court. They sat at the tiny kitchen table surrounded by legal documents and notes. Richard's testimony changes everything, Sarah said. He found the diamond in Victoria's safe. He is willing to testify that his mother framed you. With his testimony and Lucas's statement, we have a real chance." Elena nodded, but her face was troubled. "Victoria will not go down without a fight." "No, she will not. Theodore Morrison is already preparing their defense. He will attack Richard's credibility. He will attack Lucas's reliability as a witness. He will attack you." "Me?" "They will paint you as a manipulator. They will say you seduced Richard. They will say you brainwashed Lucas. They will say you are using them to save yourself." Elena felt sick. "That is disgusting. That is how wealthy people fight. They do not care about truth. They care about winning." Elena looked down at her hands. "Sometimes I wonder if it would be easier to just confess, take a plea deal, disappear." Sarah reached across the table and grabbed Elena's hand. "Do not even think that. You are innocent. Lucas knows it. Richard knows it. I know it. And in 5 days, the whole world is going to know it." Elena met Sarah's eyes. "Thank you," she whispered, "for believing in me when no one else did. That is what I am here for." 4 days before the trial, Victoria summoned Lucas to her private quarters. The boy walked in slowly, his eyes wary. He had been avoiding his grandmother ever since that night at Elena's apartment. "Sit down, darling," Victoria said sweetly. "I want to talk to you." Lucas sat on the edge of a chair, his body tense. "I know you have been confused lately," Victoria continued. "I know you think you saw something that night, but I need you to understand something very important." She leaned closer. "Elena is not a good person, Lucas. She has been lying to you. She has been using you to get money from our family. Everything she told you was a trick." Lucas's jaw tightened. "That is not true." "It is true, darling. Adults sometimes lie to children. They pretend to love them to get what they want." "Mama Elena loves me. She has always loved me." Victoria's expression hardened. "Your mother is dead, Lucas. Catherine is dead. Elena is not your mother. She is a servant, a criminal. And if you testify for her in court, you will be helping a thief escape justice." Lucas stood up. His small fists were clenched at his sides. "You are the liar, Grandma. I know what I saw, and I am going to tell the judge everything." And Victoria's face twisted with rage. "If you do that, you will destroy this family. Is that what you want? I want Mama Elena back. I want the truth." Lucas turned and walked out of the room. Victoria sat alone in the silence, her hands trembling with fury. That boy was becoming a problem she would have to solve. 3 days before the trial, Richard received a phone call from Theodore Morrison. "Richard, this is Theodore. I need to speak with you privately. I have nothing to say to you. Please, it is about your mother and about Lucas." Richard hesitated. "What about Lucas?" "Not over the phone. Meet me at the Harbor Club in 1 hour. Come alone." Richard hung up, his mind racing. Theodore Morrison was his mother's attack dog. Whatever he wanted, it could not be good. But something about his tone had been different, almost worried. Richard drove to the Harbor Club, an exclusive restaurant where his family had dined for generations. Theodore was waiting in a private booth in the back. "Thank you for coming," Theodore said as Richard sat down. "Say what you have to say." Theodore was quiet for a moment. Then he leaned forward. "I have been your family's lawyer for 30 years. I have done things for your mother that I am not proud of. I have looked the other way when she crossed lines. I have protected her reputation at any cost." "Why are you telling me this?" "Because she has crossed a line that even I cannot ignore." Richard's blood went cold. "What do you mean?" Theodore reached into his briefcase and pulled out a document. "Your mother asked me to prepare custody papers. She wants to have Lucas removed from your care. She claims you are mentally unstable, that you have been manipulated by the defendant, that you are unfit to parent." Richard snatched the papers and read them. His hands were shaking. "She cannot do this." "She can try. She has money, connections, influence. And if she wins the case against Elena, she will use that victory to prove that you were complicit in aiding a criminal." "This is insane. She is trying to take my son." Theodore nodded slowly. "I have seen your mother do many things over the years, but this is different. This is not about business or reputation. This is personal. She wants to punish you for defying her, and she is willing to use Lucas as a weapon." Richard felt like he was going to be sick. "Why are you telling me this? You work for her." Theodore was quiet for a long moment. "Because I have grandchildren of my own. Because I have spent 30 years helping people like your mother destroy people like Elena. And because I am tired of being on the wrong side." He pushed the custody papers across the table. "These documents have not been filed yet. I have delayed them as long as I can. But once the trial begins, your mother will move forward." Theodore stood up. "Win the trial, Richard. Expose the truth. It is the only way to protect your son." He walked out of the restaurant without looking back. Richard sat alone, staring at the custody papers in his hands. His mother was not just trying to destroy Elena. She was trying to destroy him. 2 days before the trial. Sarah Chen received an anonymous envelope at her office. Inside was a single photograph. The photo showed Victoria Hartwell at a charity gala. Around her neck, clearly visible, was the Hartwell diamond. The photo was dated 3 days after Elena was arrested. Sarah stared at the image. Her hands were trembling. Victoria had worn the diamond in public, after claiming it was stolen. She had been so confident in her victory that she had worn the evidence of her crime around her neck. Sarah grabbed her phone and called Richard. "I have proof," she said. "Real proof. Victoria wore the diamond at a charity gala after Elena was arrested. I have a photograph." There was a long silence. "Where did you get it?" "I do not know. It was delivered anonymously." "Can you use it in court?" "I can try. If I can verify the date and the event, it proves Victoria had the diamond the whole time. It proves Elena never took it." "Do it," Richard said. "Use everything you have. We cannot let my mother win." One day before the trial, Victoria discovered that Theodore Morrison had betrayed her. One of her staff members reported seeing him with Richard at the Harbor Club. She called Theodore immediately. "You met with my son," she said coldly. "You showed him the custody papers." Theodore's voice was calm. "I did." "You are fired." "I already resigned. I sent the letter this morning." Victoria's voice dropped to a whisper. "You will regret this, Theodore. I will destroy your career. I will make sure no one in this state ever hires you again." "Perhaps, but at least I will be able to sleep at night." He hung up. Victoria slammed the phone down so hard it cracked. She was losing control. Theodore, Richard, Lucas. Everything was falling apart. She walked to her window and stared out at the estate. Elena Martinez had done this. That woman had poisoned her family against her, had turned her own son into a traitor, had stolen her grandson's love. Victoria made a decision. If she could not win in court, she would win another way. She picked up the phone and dialed a number she had hoped she would never have to use. "It is Victoria Hartwell," she said. "I need a favor, a personal favor." She explained what she wanted. The voice on the other end agreed, the morning of the trial. Elena woke up at 5 in the morning. She had not slept. She had spent the whole night sitting by the window praying, thinking about Lucas, wondering if this would be the last day of her freedom. Sarah arrived at 7 to drive her to the courthouse. "How are you feeling?" Sarah asked, terrified. "That is normal, but remember we have Richard. We have the photograph. We have the truth. The truth does not always win." Sarah took Elena's hand. "Today it will." They drove to the courthouse in silence. The streets were empty. The sun was just beginning to rise. When they arrived, a crowd had already gathered. Reporters, camera crews, protesters with signs that said, "Justice for Elena," and others that said, "Deport the thief." Elena kept her head down as Sarah guided her through the mob. Inside the courthouse, Richard was waiting. He looked exhausted. His suit was wrinkled. His eyes were bloodshot. "Elena," he said, "I am sorry. For everything." Elena looked at the man who had once been her employer, the man who had stood silent while his mother destroyed her life. "Thank you for telling the truth," she said quietly. "That is all I ever wanted." Richard nodded. Then he turned to Sarah. "My mother's new lawyer just arrived. Harold Vance. He is worse than Theodore Morrison. He has won cases that should have been impossible." Sarah's jaw tightened. "We have evidence, we have witnesses, we have the truth. Vance does not care about truth. He cares about creating doubt. That is all he needs to win." The bailiff appeared at the door. "The court is ready. All parties, please enter." Elena took a deep breath. This was it. She walked into the courtroom, her heart pounding, her hands cold. Victoria Hartwell was already seated at the prosecution's table. She was wearing a black designer suit, pearls around her neck, her silver hair perfectly styled. She looked like a grieving victim, not a criminal. When Elena entered, Victoria turned and looked directly at her and smiled. Elena felt ice run through her veins. That smile said everything. Victoria was not worried. Victoria was not afraid. Victoria had a plan. The judge entered. Everyone rose. "This court is now in session," the judge announced. "The case of the state versus Elena Martinez. The defendant is charged with grand theft of property valued at $8 million. He looked at the prosecution table. "Mr. Vance, you may begin your opening statement." Harold Vance stood up. He was a tall man with silver hair and cold blue eyes. He moved with the confidence of someone who had never lost. "Your Honor, members of the jury, this case is simple. Elena Martinez was a trusted employee of the Hartwell family. She had access to their home, their valuables, their most precious possessions. And she betrayed that trust." He pointed at Elena. "That woman stole an $8 million diamond, a family heirloom that had been passed down for 5 generations. She thought she would never get caught. She thought the Hartwells would never suspect their loyal housekeeper." He paused for effect. "She was wrong." Vance walked slowly in front of the jury. "The defense will try to confuse you. They will present witnesses who claim Mrs. Hartwell framed the defendant. They will show you photographs and documents and try to make you doubt what you know is true." He stopped and faced the jury directly. "But ask yourselves this. Why would a woman like Victoria Hartwell, a woman worth hundreds of millions of dollars, frame a housekeeper for stealing a diamond? What could she possibly gain?" He shook his head. "Nothing. There is no motive. There is no reason. The only person with a motive to steal that diamond was Elena Martinez, a woman with no money, no savings, no future." Vance returned to his seat. "Do not be fooled by the defense's tricks. Look at the facts. Look at the evidence, and deliver the justice that the Hartwell family deserves." The courtroom was silent. Sarah stood up. "Your Honor, members of the jury, the prosecution wants you to believe this case is simple. It is not." She walked toward the jury box. "Elena Martinez worked for the Hartwell family for 7 years. 7 years of waking up before dawn. 7 years of cleaning, cooking, caring for a child who lost his mother. 7 years of loyalty, dedication, and love." Sarah's voice grew stronger. "And what did she get in return? She was framed, arrested, humiliated. Her face was splashed across every newspaper in the state. She was called a thief, a criminal, a disgrace." Sarah pointed at Victoria. "That woman did this. Victoria Hartwell had the diamond the entire time. Her own son found it in her private safe. Her own grandson saw her hiding it the night it supposedly disappeared." Sarah turned back to the jury. "This case is not about a stolen diamond. It is about power. It is about a wealthy woman who wanted to destroy someone she saw as a threat. It is about the lengths the rich will go to protect their control." She took a deep breath. "Elena Martinez is innocent, and by the end of this trial, you will know it beyond any doubt." Sarah sat down. Elena looked at the jury. Some faces were sympathetic. Others were skeptical. Everything depended on what happened next. The judge looked at his watch. "We will take a 15-minute recess. When we return, the prosecution will call its first witness." He banged his gavel. Elena leaned toward Sarah. "How did we do?" Sarah's face was grim. "The opening was good, but Vance is just getting started. The real fight begins now." 15 minutes later, the court reconvened. Harold Vance stood up. "The prosecution calls Victoria Hartwell to the stand." Victoria rose from her seat with practiced elegance. She walked to the witness stand, placed her hand on the Bible, and swore to tell the truth. Then she sat down and faced the courtroom. Her eyes found Elena, and once again she smiled. Harold Vance approached the witness stand with the confidence of a man who had already won. "Mrs. Hartwell, please tell the court about your relationship with the defendant." Victoria dabbed at her eyes with a silk handkerchief. "Elena Martinez came to work for our family 7 years ago. I welcomed her into my home. I trusted her completely. She had access to everything, every room, every closet, every safe. And how did she repay that trust? She stole from me." Victoria's voice cracked. "She stole the most precious thing I owned, the diamond my husband gave me on our wedding night." "Can you describe the events leading up to the theft?" Victoria nodded slowly. 3 days before I discovered the diamond was missing, I asked Elena to clean it. She had never handled my jewelry before, but I thought after 7 years she had earned my trust. Victoria paused. "I was wrong." "What happened next?" "I placed the diamond in my jewelry cabinet after Elena returned it. 3 days later, when I went to retrieve it for a charity event, the cabinet was empty." Vance let the words hang in the air. "Did anyone else have access to that cabinet?" "No one. The cabinet was in my private quarters. Only I have the key, and Elena on that one occasion when she cleaned the diamond." "What did you do when you discovered the theft?" "I was devastated." Victoria's voice trembled. "That diamond had been in my family for 5 generations. It was irreplaceable. I called my son immediately and we contacted the police." Vance nodded sympathetically. "Mrs. Hartwell, the defense claims that you framed Elena Martinez, that you hid the diamond in your safe and accused her falsely. What do you say to that?" Victoria straightened in her chair. "That accusation is absurd and deeply hurtful. Why would I frame my own housekeeper? What could I possibly gain? I am a 70-year-old widow. I have more money than I could spend in 10 lifetimes. I have no reason to destroy an innocent woman's life." "Then why do you believe the defense is making these claims?" Victoria looked directly at Elena. "Because Elena Martinez is a manipulator. She spent 7 years worming her way into my family. She made my grandson dependent on her. She made my son sympathize with her. And now she is using them both to escape justice." The courtroom murmured. Vance smiled. "No further questions, Your Honor." Sarah Chen stood up slowly. Her heart was pounding, but her face was calm. "Mrs. Hartwell, you stated that Elena had never handled your jewelry before that day. Is that correct?" "Yes." "Then why did you suddenly ask her to clean the diamond after 7 years?" Victoria's eyes flickered. "I wanted to give her more responsibility, to show her I trusted her." "After 7 years of never trusting her with valuables, you suddenly decided to hand her an $8 million diamond." "Yes." "That seems unusual, does it not?" Vance stood up. "Objection. Speculation." "Sustained," the judge said. "Move on, Ms. Chen." Sarah nodded. "Mrs. Hartwell, you testified that only you have the key to your jewelry cabinet. But your son Richard Hartwell found the diamond in a hidden safe behind your bookshelf, a safe with a different key. Can you explain that?" Victoria's face tightened. "My son was confused. He found the diamond because I placed it there for safekeeping after Elena returned it." "After Elena returned it?" "Yes, I moved it to the safe for extra security." "So the diamond was in your safe the entire time it was supposedly stolen?" "No, I moved it there after Elena returned it. Then it went missing again." Sarah raised an eyebrow. "So you are saying the diamond disappeared twice?" "I am saying Elena must have known about the safe. She must have returned later and taken it." "Mrs. Hartwell, your son testified in his deposition that the safe was hidden behind a secret panel in your bookshelf, a panel that he, your own son, did not know existed until he searched your office. How would a housekeeper know about a secret safe that your own family did not know about?" Victoria's hands gripped the armrests of the witness chair. "I do not know. Perhaps she was spying on me." "For 7 years. She had plenty of time." Sarah walked to the evidence table and picked up a photograph. "Your Honor, I would like to submit Exhibit D into evidence, a photograph taken at the Greenwich Charity Gala 3 days after Elena Martinez was arrested." The bailiff took the photograph and handed it to the judge. Sarah continued, "Mrs. Hartwell, can you identify the woman in this photograph?" Victoria looked at the image. Her face went pale. "That is me." "And can you identify the necklace you are wearing in this photograph?" Victoria was silent. "Mrs. Hartwell, I do not recall." Sarah's voice hardened. "Let me refresh your memory. The necklace in this photograph is the Hartwell diamond, the same diamond you claimed was stolen. The same diamond you accused Elena Martinez of taking." The courtroom erupted. "Order!" The judge banged his gavel. "Order in the court!" Vance jumped to his feet. "Objection. The photograph has not been authenticated. We have no proof of when it was taken." Sarah pulled out another document. "Your Honor, I have a statement from the event photographer confirming the date, time, and location of this photograph. I also have the original metadata from the digital file, which has been verified by an independent forensic analyst." The judge examined the documents. "The photograph is admitted into evidence." Sarah turned back to Victoria. "Mrs. Hartwell, you wore the diamond to a charity event 3 days after claiming it was stolen. How do you explain that?" Victoria's composure finally cracked. "That photograph is fake. It has been manipulated." The forensic analyst found no evidence of manipulation. "Then the analyst is wrong." "Mrs. Hartwell, are you accusing a certified forensic expert of lying?" Victoria's voice rose. "I am accusing the defense of fabricating evidence to protect a criminal." Sarah stepped closer to the witness stand. "Mrs. Hartwell, I will ask you one more time. Did you frame Elena Martinez for stealing a diamond that was never actually stolen?" Victoria shot to her feet. "How dare you! I am Victoria Hartwell. I have given millions to charity. I have built hospitals and schools. I will not be interrogated by some nobody lawyer defending a Mexican thief." The courtroom gasped. Sarah did not flinch. "No further questions, Your Honor." Victoria stood frozen, realizing what she had just said. Her carefully constructed mask had slipped, revealing the hatred underneath. The judge looked at her coldly. "You may step down, Mrs. Hartwell." Victoria walked back to her seat on shaking legs. Her face was white. Harold Vance leaned over and whispered something urgent in her ear, but she did not respond. She had made a mistake, a terrible mistake. The judge called a 30-minute recess. Elena sat in a small conference room with Sarah, her hands still trembling. "What just happened?" Elena whispered. Sarah allowed herself a small smile. Victoria lost her temper. She showed the jury who she really is. That helps us. "But is it enough?" Sarah's smile faded. "Honestly, I do not know. Vance is good. He will try to recover. We need Richard's testimony, and we need Lucas." Elena's heart clenched at the mention of Lucas. "Is he here?" Richard brought him. "He is waiting in a separate room. The judge approved him as a witness, but Vance is going to try to discredit him. He is going to say Lucas was coached, that his memory is unreliable, that children cannot be trusted." Elena felt sick. He is 8 years old. They are going to attack an 8-year-old child. They are going to do whatever it takes to win. The recess ended. Richard Hartwell took the stand. Vance approached him with a predatory smile. "Mr. Hartwell, you are here today to testify against your own mother. That must be difficult." Richard's voice was steady. "It is, but it is the right thing to do." "Is it? Or are you simply trying to protect a woman you have developed inappropriate feelings for?" Sarah jumped up. "Objection, inflammatory and without foundation." "Sustained." The judge glared at Vance. "Counselor, keep your questions relevant." Vance nodded, but the damage was done. He had planted a seed in the jury's mind. "Mr. Hartwell, you claim you found the diamond in your mother's safe. How did you know where to look?" "My son told me. He saw my mother hiding something the night the diamond disappeared." "Your son? An 8-year-old child?" "Yes." Vance chuckled. "Mr. Hartwell, children have vivid imaginations. They often confuse dreams with reality. Is it possible your son imagined seeing your mother?" "No, Lucas does not lie." "All children lie, Mr. Hartwell. It is part of development. Are you saying your son is somehow different from every other child on the planet?" Richard's jaw tightened. I know my son. He told me what he saw, and when I searched my mother's office, I found exactly what he described. Or perhaps you planted the diamond there yourself. Richard stared at Vance. Why would I do that? To protect Elena Martinez, to frame your mother, to take control of the family fortune. That is insane. Is it you had access to your mother's quarters? You had motive, your wife is dead, and you have become emotionally dependent on the housekeeper who raised your son. Perhaps you saw an opportunity to remove your mother from power and take everything for yourself. Richard's voice rose. I found the diamond because my mother is a liar. She framed an innocent woman. She was willing to destroy someone's life to maintain her control over this family, and I will not let her get away with it. Vance smiled. No further questions. Sarah stood up for cross-examination. Mr. Hartwell, did you plant that diamond in your mother's safe? No. Did you conspire with Elena Martinez to frame your mother? No. Do you have any romantic relationship with Elena Martinez? No. She is like family to me and my son, nothing more. Why are you testifying against your own mother? Richard was quiet for a moment. Because my wife made me promise to protect our son. She made Elena promise the same thing. Elena kept that promise for 7 years. She loved Lucas when I was too broken to love him myself. She held our family together when I was falling apart. His voice cracked. And my mother tried to destroy her for it. Not because Elena did anything wrong, but because Elena became important to us, because Lucas loved her, because I trusted her. Richard looked at the jury. Elena Martinez is innocent. My mother is the one who committed a crime, and I am asking you to see the truth, even though it means sending my own mother to prison. The courtroom was silent. Sarah nodded. No further questions. The judge looked at the clock. It is noon. We will break for lunch and reconvene at 2 o'clock. He banged his gavel. During the lunch break, Victoria cornered Richard in the hallway. What are you doing? She hissed. You are destroying everything I built for you. You destroyed it yourself, Mother. I did everything for this family, everything, and this is how you repay me, by siding with the help against your own blood. Richard looked at her with something close to pity. You never did anything for this family. You did everything for yourself, for control, for power. Catherine saw it. Lucas sees it. And now I see it too. Victoria's face twisted. If you do this, you will lose everything. The company, the money, the respect of everyone in our circle. I do not care about any of that. What about Lucas? Do you want him to grow up with a mother in prison? Richard stepped closer. Lucas never had a mother in you. He had a prison warden, someone who tried to control him the way you controlled me. His voice dropped to a whisper. But that ends today. He walked away. Victoria watched him go, her eyes burning with hatred. She turned and walked to a quiet corner of the courthouse. She pulled out her phone and made a call. Is it done? She asked. Yes, Mrs. Hartwell. The witness will not be a problem. Victoria hung up and smiled. She had one last card to play. 2 o'clock. The court reconvened. Sarah stood up. Your Honor, the defense calls Lucas Hartwell to the stand. The courtroom doors opened. Lucas walked in slowly, holding his father's hand. He was wearing a blue suit that was slightly too big for him. His face was pale, but his eyes were determined. Elena felt tears burning as she watched him approach the witness stand. He looked so small, so young, so brave. The bailiff administered the oath. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Lucas nodded. I do. He climbed into the witness chair. His feet did not touch the floor. Sarah approached him gently. Lucas, I know this is scary, but I need you to tell the court what you saw the night the diamond disappeared. Can you do that? Lucas looked at his grandmother. Victoria stared back at him with cold warning in her eyes. Lucas swallowed hard. I woke up to get water, he began. It was late. The house was quiet. I walked to the kitchen, but I heard footsteps in the hallway. What did you do? I hid behind the door. I was scared. I thought it might be a robber. And what did you see? I saw Grandma. She was coming out of her office. She was holding something shiny. It looked like a big piece of glass that sparkled. Did you see what she did with it? Lucas nodded. She went into her bedroom, but she did not turn on the lights. She was walking really quiet, like she did not want anyone to hear. What happened next? I heard her say something. She was talking to herself. Sarah leaned forward. What did she say, Lucas? Lucas's voice was barely a whisper. She said Elena will be an easy target. The courtroom exploded. Order! The judge banged his gavel repeatedly. Order, I will have silence in this courtroom. Victoria was on her feet. He is lying. That child has been coached. This is a conspiracy. Mrs. Hartwell, sit down, or I will hold you in contempt. Harold Vance grabbed Victoria's arm and forced her back into her chair. The judge turned to Lucas. Young man, I want you to understand how serious this is. You are under oath. That means you must tell the truth. Do you understand? Lucas nodded, his eyes filling with tears. Yes, sir. I understand. I am not lying. I know what I heard. The judge studied him for a long moment. Then he nodded. Continue, Ms. Chen. Sarah took a deep breath. Lucas, did you tell anyone what you saw that night? I told Grandma the next morning. And what did she say? She said I was dreaming. She told me to never talk about it again. Did you believe her? Lucas shook his head. No, I know the difference between dreams and real life. I was awake. I saw her. Sarah nodded. Thank you, Lucas. No further questions. Vance stood up slowly. His face was hard. Your Honor, I would like to cross-examine this witness. The judge frowned. Mr. Vance, I remind you that the witness is 8 years old. You will treat him with appropriate respect. Of course, Your Honor. Vance approached Lucas the way a shark approaches wounded prey. Lucas, you love Mama Elena, do you not? Lucas's chin lifted. Yes. You do not want her to go to prison? No. So you would say anything to protect her, even lie. I am not lying. Lucas, did Elena ever tell you what to say in court? No. Did your father? No. No one told you to blame your grandmother? Lucas's voice grew stronger. No one told me anything. I am telling the truth because Mama Elena always taught me to tell the truth. She said the truth is the most important thing, even when it is scary. Vance's eyes narrowed. Lucas, you said you heard your grandmother talking to herself, but it was late at night. You were tired. How can you be sure you heard correctly? Because I remember. Memories can be wrong, Lucas, especially memories from when we are half asleep. I was not half asleep. I was awake. You were a 6-year-old child in the middle of the night. You could have imagined the whole thing. Lucas's face flushed with frustration. I did not imagine it. I saw Grandma holding the diamond. I heard what she said. Why does no one believe me? His voice broke. Elena could not bear it anymore. She stood up. Your Honor, please. He is just a child. Ms. Martinez, sit down. Elena remained standing. That woman tortured him for weeks. She threatened him. She tried to make him forget what he saw. And now this lawyer is calling him a liar in front of the whole world. He is 8 years old. The judge banged his gavel. Ms. Martinez, I said sit down. One more outburst and I will remove you from this courtroom. Sarah pulled Elena back into her seat. Elena, please, you are not helping. Elena sat down, tears streaming down her face. On the witness stand, Lucas was crying too. He looked at Elena across the courtroom, his small body shaking with sobs. I am telling the truth, he said through his tears. I promise, Mama Elena, I promise I am telling the truth. Elena pressed her hand against her heart. I know, mi amor, I know. The judge took a deep breath. Mr. Vance, do you have any further questions? Vance looked at the crying child. He looked at the jury. Several jurors were wiping their eyes. One woman was glaring at him with open hostility. He had pushed too far. No further questions, Your Honor. The judge nodded. Lucas, you may step down. You did very well. Lucas climbed out of the witness chair and ran to his father. Richard lifted him into his arms and held him tight. I am proud of you, Richard whispered. Your mother would be so proud. The judge announced a 15-minute recess. In the hallway, Victoria stood alone. Her lawyer was gone making phone calls trying to salvage the case. Her son had betrayed her. Her grandson had destroyed her. She watched Lucas crying in Richard's arms. She watched Elena being comforted by her lawyer. She watched everything she had built crumbling around her. Her phone buzzed. A text message. "The package has been delivered. Check your email." Victoria opened her email. There was a new message with an attachment. She opened the attachment and smiled. Court resumed at 3:30. Harold Vance stood up. "Your Honor, the prosecution has new evidence to submit." Sarah frowned. "Your Honor, we received no notice of additional evidence." "This evidence only came to light during the lunch recess," Vance said smoothly. "It is directly relevant to the credibility of the defendant." The judge considered. "I will allow it with the understanding that the defense will have opportunity to respond. What is this evidence, Mr. Vance?" Vance held up a folder. "Your Honor, we have obtained financial records showing that Elena Martinez received a wire transfer of $50,000 2 weeks before her arrest. The transfer came from an offshore account in the Cayman Islands." The courtroom gasped. Elena went pale. "What?" "That is not true. I have never received any money." Sarah grabbed Elena's arm. "Be quiet. Let me handle this." Vance continued. "The prosecution contends that this payment was an advance for the sale of the stolen diamond. Elena Martinez did not steal the diamond on impulse. She planned it. She had a buyer lined up, and she received payment before the theft even occurred." He handed the documents to the bailiff. "We submit these financial records as Exhibit G." The judge examined the papers. "Ms. Chen, your response." Sarah stood up, her mind racing. "Your Honor, the defense has not had time to examine this evidence. We request a continuance to investigate the authenticity of these documents." Vance shook his head. "Your Honor, the defense has already delayed this trial multiple times. The prosecution opposes any further continuances." The judge frowned. "Ms. Chen, I am going to allow the evidence. You will have the opportunity to cross-examine and challenge its authenticity." Sarah's heart sank. "Yes, Your Honor." Elena was trembling. "Sarah, I never received any money, I swear. Someone is lying." Sarah looked at the documents. They looked real. Bank statements, wire transfer confirmations. Elena's name, her social security number. If this evidence was fake, someone had gone to enormous trouble to create it. And Sarah had no way to prove it was fake, not today. The trial continued. Vance presented the financial evidence to the jury, painting Elena as a calculating thief who had planned the robbery for months. He described the offshore account, the mysterious buyer, the complex scheme to steal and sell the diamond. With every word, Elena watched the jury's sympathy fade. The photograph of Victoria wearing the diamond had shaken them. Lucas's testimony had moved them. But now they were confused again, uncertain, wondering if maybe Elena really was guilty after all. Sarah did her best during cross-examination. She pointed out that the documents had appeared at the last minute. She questioned how the prosecution had obtained Elena's private financial records. She suggested the evidence could have been fabricated, but it was not enough. She could see it in the jurors' faces. Doubt. At 5 o'clock, the judge announced that closing arguments would begin the following morning. Court was adjourned. Elena walked out of the courthouse in a daze. The reporters were shouting questions. The cameras were flashing. But she heard nothing, saw nothing. Someone had framed her twice, first with the diamond, now with fake financial records. She was going to prison. She was going to spend the rest of her life in a cell. She would never see Lucas again. Sarah caught up to her. "Elena, listen to me. This is not over." "Did you see their faces? The jury thinks I am guilty." "The jury has not voted yet. We still have closing arguments. We still have a chance." Elena shook her head. Victoria won. She always wins. People like me do not beat people like her. Sarah grabbed Elena's shoulders. "Do not give up. Do you hear me? You survived 7 years in that house. You survived being arrested. You survived having your name dragged through the mud. You are the strongest person I have ever met. Do not give up now." Elena looked at this young lawyer who had believed in her when no one else did. Why do you care so much? Because you deserve justice. Because my grandmother deserved justice and never got it. Because if we stop fighting people like Victoria Hartwell, win forever. Sarah's eyes were fierce. I am not going to let that happen, and neither are you. Elena felt something stir in her chest. A tiny spark of hope, she thought, had died. What do? We go home. We rest. And tomorrow, we fight like our lives depend on it. Because yours does. That night, Elena sat alone in her apartment. She looked at the photograph of Lucas on her nightstand. I am sorry, mi amor, she whispered. I tried. I really tried. She did not know if she would ever see him again. She did not know if the truth would be enough to save her. But she knew one thing. She was not going to give up. Not yet. At 10 o'clock, her phone rang. She almost did not answer. She expected another reporter, another hateful caller, another stranger telling her she deserved to rot in prison. But something made her pick up. Hello. Elena, it is Richard. Elena's breath caught. Richard, what is wrong? Is Lucas okay? Lucas is fine, but I found something important. Elena's heart began to pound. What do you mean? The financial records. The ones Vance showed in court. They were fake. My mother created them. Elena could not breathe. How do you know? Because I found the original files on her computer. She hired someone to fabricate the documents. I have the emails. I have the payment records. I have everything. Elena started to cry. Richard, if this is true, it is true, and I am going to give it to Sarah tonight. This nightmare ends tomorrow. Elena pressed her hand over her mouth to muffle her sobs. Thank you, she whispered. Thank you. Do not thank me. Thank Lucas. He refused to stop believing in you. He made me keep looking. Richard paused. Get some sleep, Elena. Tomorrow you are going to be free. He hung up. Elena sat in the darkness, tears streaming down her face. Tomorrow. Everything would change tomorrow. She just had to survive one more night. Retry H. Part 4. Louis Viet Du 1800 5002. Liên kết liên mật với các phần trước trong câu chuyện pha hội thoại tạo thành một câu chuyện liên mật khi ghép lại. Mỗi phần liền mạch với phần trước không giới thiệu lại câu chuyện ở đầu phần mới. Liên kết các phần của câu chuyện một cách liền mạch. Sử dụng câu chuyện tiếp giữa các phần. Duy trì chủ đề, tránh ngắt quãng đột ngột, không sử dụng gạch đầu dòng hoặc tiêu đề. Phụ phong cách kể chuyện Mỹ Hoa Kỳ giống văn giàu cảm xúc chân thực và gần gũi, không mô tả cảnh, tập trung vào hành động, cảm xúc và tâm lý nhân vật. Viết phần 2, đạt điểm 10-10 và bổ sung tiết tấu câu chuyện nhanh, sửa lời ai, kế theo ngôi thứ 3 tăng độ kịch tính, không viết lan man kết thúc phần không giới thiệu phần sau. Lưu ý trả lời trong mục tin nhắn, không nhảy sang mực document mới, 2-3 phút, cần có mini climax và đắt 10-15 mini climax mới. Phần cự 10-12 phút, có một twist lớn sâu sắc, đan xen mini cliffhanger mạnh hơn. Tăng tính tự nhiên, cho phản ứng của các nhân vật thêm nhịp điệu, kịch tính thực tế và gần gũi. Mỗi 8-10 phút, cần có móc giữ chân khán giả, thêm đánh dấu thời gian. Lưu ý không mô tả cảnh, không có phần gạch trong bài viết và chỉ cần viết nội dung và viết đúng lệnh nhé. Show more orchestrated climactic trial finale với drama twist và emotional intensity. The user wants me to write part 4 of the story continuing from part 3. They want 4,800 times of 5,000 words. Seamless connection with previous parts. Mixed dialogue to create a cohesive story. No reintroduction at the beginning. Smooth transitions between parts. Maintain the theme. No abrupt breaks. No bullet points or subheadings. American storytelling style with emotional, authentic, and relatable voice. No scene descriptions, focus on emotional actions and character psychology. Write part 4 to score 10-10. Add story rhythm, fast pace. Fix AI errors. Third-person narration. Increase drama, no rambling. Don't introduce the next part at the end. Reply in message, not document. Every 2 to 3 minutes need mini-climax achieve 10, 15 mini-climaxes per part. Every 10-12 minutes have one major twist. Intersperse stronger mini-cliffhangers. Increase natural reactions for characters. Add dramatic rhythm, realistic and relatable. Every 8 to 10 minutes need audience retention hooks. Add time markers. No scene descriptions, no bullet points, just write content and follow instructions. Let me continue from where part 3 ended. Richard called Elena and told her he found evidence that the financial records were fake, created by Victoria. Tomorrow, everything would change. Part 4 should be the climax. The final day of trial, closing arguments, revelation of the fake documents, Victoria's downfall. Let me write this dramatically with lots of dialogue, mini-climaxes, and emotional moments. Elena did not sleep that night. She sat by the window watching the hours crawl by her mind, racing with hope and fear. Richard's words echoed in her head. Tomorrow, you are going to be free. She wanted to believe him. She needed to believe him. But 7 years of serving the Hartwell family had taught her one thing. Victoria always had another plan. At 4 in the morning, Elena's phone rang again. She grabbed it, expecting Richard. It was Sarah. Elena, we have a problem. Elena's blood went cold. What happened? Richard was supposed to meet me at my office an hour ago to hand over the evidence. He never showed up. What do you mean he never showed up? I have been calling him for an hour. No answer. I drove to the mansion. The gates are locked. The security guard said no one is allowed in or out. Elena felt the floor drop beneath her. Victoria, she found out. That is what I am afraid of. What do we do? Sarah was silent for a long moment. I do not know. Without that evidence, we have nothing. The jury saw those fake financial records. They think you planned the whole thing. Elena closed her eyes. So it is over. I did not say that. I said I do not know. There has to be another way. I just need time to think. The trial starts in 5 hours, Sarah. We do not have time. Then I will figure something out in 5 hours. Sarah hung up. Elena sat in the darkness, her last hope slipping away. At 6 in the morning, a black car pulled up outside Elena's apartment. She watched from the window, her heart pounding. 2 men in dark suits stepped out. They walked toward her building. Elena backed away from the window. Her hands were shaking. Victoria had sent people to do what threatened her, hurt her, make sure she never made it to court. There was a knock at her door. Elena did not move. Ms. Martinez. A man's voice. Calm. Professional. My name is Agent Michael Torres. I am with the FBI. We need to speak with you. FBI. Elena crept to the door and looked through the peephole. The man held up a badge. Please open the door, Ms. Martinez. It is urgent. Elena's mind raced. FBI agents did not work for Victoria Hartwell. At least she did not think they did. She opened the door. 2 men stood in the hallway. The one who had spoken was in his 40s with a serious face and tired eyes. The other was younger, holding a folder. May we come in? Elena stepped aside. The agents entered. Torres looked around her tiny apartment, then turned to face her. Ms. Martinez, we have been investigating Victoria Hartwell for 6 months. Financial crimes, fraud, witness tampering. Your case came to our attention 3 weeks ago. Elena stared at him. You have been watching my trial. We have been watching Victoria. Your trial gave us the opportunity we needed. Torres nodded to the younger agent who opened the folder. Last night, Richard Hartwell contacted us. He had evidence that his mother fabricated financial documents to frame you. Wire transfers, bank records, emails between Victoria and a man in the Cayman Islands who specializes in creating false documentation. Elena felt her legs go weak. Richard contacted you. He tried to bring the evidence to your lawyer, but Victoria's security stopped him. They confiscated his phone, his laptop, everything. He managed to email us a copy before they locked him down. Torres pulled out a flash drive. This is everything, the fake documents, the emails, the payment records, everything we need to prove that Victoria Hartwell committed fraud, fabricated evidence, and attempted to obstruct justice. Elena's hands were trembling. Why are you telling me this? Torres met her eyes. because we want you to know that you are not alone. Victoria Hartwell has been destroying people like you for decades. She has connections in local law enforcement, in the courts, in the media. She thought she was untouchable. He handed her the flash drive. She was wrong. Elena looked at the small device in her palm. What do I do with this? Give it to your lawyer. Tell her to present it in court today. We will have agents standing by to arrest Victoria as soon as the judge rules. Elena felt tears burning in her eyes. Why now? Why did you wait until now? Torres was quiet for a moment. Because we needed her to commit a crime on record. The fabricated documents were our missing piece. Richard's evidence proves she created them. Combined with everything else, we have enough to send her to prison for the rest of her life. He paused. I am sorry it took so long. I am sorry you had to go through this. But today, justice will finally be served. Elena clutched the flash drive to her chest. Thank you, she whispered. Thank you. Torres nodded. Good luck, Ms. Martinez. The agents left. Elena immediately called Sarah. Sarah, I have it. The FBI came to my apartment. They have everything. Richard sent them the evidence before Victoria shut him down. Sarah's voice was breathless. The FBI? They have been investigating Victoria for months. They are going to arrest her today. Elena, if this is true. It is true. I have a flash drive with everything. Sarah was silent for a moment. When she spoke again, her voice was shaking with emotion. Then let us end this. 8:30 in the morning. The courthouse was packed. Reporters filled every seat. Cameras waited outside. The whole country was watching. Elena walked in wearing the same clothes she had worn every day of the trial. She had nothing else, but today she walked with her head high. Sarah met her at the defense table. I reviewed the files on the flash drive, Sarah whispered. It is all there. Emails between Victoria and a forger named David Crane, payment records, instructions on how to create the fake wire transfers, everything. Can we use it? The judge will have to allow it. Vance will fight. But with the FBI backing us up, he cannot stop it. Elena nodded. Where is Richard? Sarah's face darkened. He is not here. Victoria's security is still holding him at the mansion. The FBI is working on getting him released, but it might take time. What about Lucas? Same situation. Victoria has them both locked down. Elena felt a spike of fear. She is not going to hurt them, is she? The FBI has eyes on the mansion. If Victoria tries anything, they will move in. The bailiff called the court to order. The judge entered. This court is now in session. We will begin with closing arguments. Mr. Vance, you may proceed. Harold Vance stood up. He looked confident. He did not know what was coming. Your Honor, members of the jury, over the past several days, you have heard testimony from multiple witnesses. You have seen evidence of a complex theft scheme. And you have watched the defense try every trick in the book to confuse you and misdirect you from the simple truth. He pointed at Elena. That woman is guilty. She stole an $8 million diamond from the family that trusted her. She planned the theft for months. She had a buyer lined up. She received payment in advance. Vance walked slowly in front of the jury box. The defense has tried to paint Victoria Hartwell as a villain. They have accused her of framing an innocent woman. But ask yourselves, what evidence have they provided? A photograph that could have been manipulated. The testimony of an 8-year-old child who loves the defendant. The word of a son who has turned against his own mother. He shook his head. That is not evidence. That is desperation. The defense knows their client is guilty, so they have attacked the victim instead. Vance returned to his seat. I ask you to see through the smoke and mirrors. Look at the facts. Look at the financial records. Elena Martinez planned this crime. She executed it, and she deserves to spend the rest of her life in prison. He sat down. The judge turned to Sarah. Ms. Chen, your closing argument. Sarah stood up. Your Honor, before I begin the defense, has new evidence to present. Evidence that directly contradicts the financial records submitted by the prosecution. Vance jumped to his feet. Objection. This is highly irregular. The defense cannot introduce new evidence during closing arguments. Sarah remained calm. Your Honor, this evidence came into our possession only this morning. It proves that the financial records presented by the prosecution were fabricated. It proves that Victoria Hartwell committed fraud and attempted to frame my client." The courtroom erupted in murmurs. The judge banged his gavel. "Order, order in the court." He turned to Sarah. "Ms. Chen, this is extremely unusual. What is the nature of this evidence?" "Your Honor, I have emails between Victoria Hartwell and a known document forger named David Crane. I have payment records showing that Mrs. Hartwell paid Mr. Crane $50,000 to create the false wire transfers. I have the original metadata proving the documents were created 3 days ago, not 3 weeks ago as the prosecution claims." Vance's face went pale. "Your Honor, this is absurd. These documents are clearly fabricated by the defense." "The documents were provided by the FBI," Sarah said. "Agents are standing by to authenticate them." The judge's eyebrows rose. "The FBI?" "Yes, Your Honor. They have been investigating Victoria Hartwell for 6 months. This trial gave them the evidence they needed to complete their case." The courtroom exploded. Victoria shot to her feet. "This is a conspiracy. They are all working together to destroy me." "Mrs. Hartwell, sit down," the judge commanded. Victoria did not sit down. "You have no right to treat me this way. I am Victoria Hartwell. I have donated millions to this city. I have connections in every level of government. Mrs. Hartwell, I am warning you. I will not be silenced by some nobody judge in some pathetic courtroom." The judge's face turned red. "Bailiff, restrain Mrs. Hartwell." 2 bailiffs moved toward Victoria. She tried to back away, but they grabbed her arms. "Get your hands off me. Do you know who I am? Mrs. Hartwell, you are now in contempt of court." "I do not care about your contempt. I do not care about any of this." The bailiffs forced Victoria back into her chair. She was breathing hard, her face twisted with rage. The judge took a deep breath. "Ms. Chen, please present your evidence." Sarah handed the flash drive to the bailiff. "Your Honor, I request that the court technology specialist authenticate these files." The judge nodded. "We will take a 30-minute recess while the evidence is examined." He banged his gavel. The courtroom slowly emptied. Victoria sat frozen in her chair, staring at nothing. Vance leaned over and whispered urgently in her ear, but she did not respond. Elena turned to Sarah. "Is it really happening?" Sarah nodded, her eyes bright with tears. "It is really happening." During the recess, FBI agents entered the courthouse. Agent Torres approached the judge's chambers. He carried a folder containing the complete case file on Victoria Hartwell. Inside the folder were 6 months of investigation, wire fraud, tax evasion, witness tampering in multiple cases over 20 years, payments to local officials to make complaints disappear, a pattern of destroying anyone who threatened her control. Elena Martinez was just the latest victim. The technology specialist confirmed the authenticity of the files on Sarah's flash drive. The emails were real. The payment records were real. The metadata proved the false financial documents had been created only days ago. Everything Victoria had done to frame Elena was now exposed. The recess ended. Everyone returned to the courtroom. The judge's face was grim. "I have reviewed the evidence submitted by the defense. The files have been authenticated by our technology specialist and corroborated by the FBI." He turned to the jury. "I am instructing you to disregard the financial evidence presented by the prosecution. Those documents have been proven to be fraudulent." Vance slumped in his chair. Victoria stared straight ahead, her face blank. The judge continued. "Furthermore, based on the evidence presented, I am dismissing all charges against Elena Martinez." Elena could not breathe. Sarah grabbed her hand. "You are free," Sarah whispered. "It is over." The judge was not finished. "Additionally, I am ordering Victoria Hartwell to be taken into custody, pending investigation for fraud, fabrication of evidence, and obstruction of justice." The FBI agents moved forward. Victoria finally reacted. No, this cannot be happening." Agent Torres approached her. "Victoria Hartwell, you are under arrest. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law." "You cannot do this to me!" Victoria's voice rose to a scream. "I am Victoria Hartwell. The agents handcuffed her. The courtroom was in chaos. Reporters were shouting, cameras were flashing, people were on their feet trying to see. Through it all, Elena sat perfectly still. She looked at Victoria being led away in handcuffs. The woman who had tried to destroy her. The woman who had taken everything from her. The woman who had finally lost. Victoria turned at the door and met Elena's eyes. For one moment, the two women stared at each other. Elena saw hatred in Victoria's eyes, pure, undiluted hatred. But she also saw something else. Fear. Victoria Hartwell was afraid. The agents pulled her through the door. She was gone. Outside the courthouse, a crowd had gathered. Word had spread. The verdict was in. The maid was innocent. The billionaire was arrested. Elena walked out into the sunlight for the first time in weeks as a free woman. The crowd cheered. "Elena, Elena, Elena." Strangers reached out to touch her hand. People held signs that said, "Justice for Elena" and "Truth wins." Reporters shouted questions that she could not hear over the noise. Elena stopped at the top of the courthouse steps. She looked out at all the faces, all the people who had come to support her. For so long she had felt alone, abandoned, forgotten. But she was not alone. She had never been alone. Sarah appeared beside her. "How does it feel?" Elena smiled through her tears. "Like waking up from a nightmare." A black SUV pulled up at the bottom of the steps. The crowd parted. The door opened. Richard Hartwell stepped out. He looked exhausted. His clothes were wrinkled. His face was pale. But when he saw Elena, he smiled. "Richard." Elena ran down the steps. He caught her in a hug. "I am sorry," he said. "I tried to get here sooner. Mother's security held me until the FBI intervened." I know. Elena pulled back and looked at his face. "You saved me. You and Lucas." Richard shook his head. "You saved yourself. You never gave up even when everyone was against you, even when it seemed hopeless." The SUV door opened again. Lucas tumbled out. "Mama Elena!" He ran toward her like his life depended on it. Elena fell to her knees and caught him in her arms. "Lucas! Oh, Lucas!" "I knew you would win," Lucas sobbed into her shoulder. "I knew the truth would win. I never stopped believing." Elena held him so tight she thought she might never let go. "I know, mi amor. I know. You are the bravest person I have ever met." Lucas looked up at her with tear-filled eyes. "Are you going to come home now?" Elena's heart clenched. "I do not know, Lucas. I do not know what happens now." Richard knelt down beside them. "We figure it out together," he said quietly. "Whatever comes next, we figure it out as a family." Elena looked at Richard, at Lucas, at the crowd still cheering behind her. Family. She had not had a family since her husband died 15 years ago. But looking at these two people who had fought for her, who had risked everything for her, she realized something. She had found a family again. 3 hours later. The news had spread across the country. Every channel was running the story. Every website, every social media platform. Billionaire grandmother arrested for framing housekeeper. 8-year-old boy's testimony brings down Hartwell empire. Immigrant maid vindicated after viral trial. The same media that had called Elena a thief now called her a hero. The same commentators who had demanded her deportation now praised her courage. The same strangers who had sent her hate mail now sent apologies. Elena sat in Sarah's office watching the coverage in disbelief. "They are acting like they supported me the whole time," she said quietly. Sarah nodded. "That is how it works. Everyone wants to be on the winning side. They will pretend they believed in you from the beginning." "But they did not. No, they did not." Sarah turned off the television. "But that does not matter now. What matters is that you are free. Victoria is in custody." And the truth finally came out. Elena was quiet for a moment. What happens to Victoria now? She will be charged with multiple felonies: fraud, fabrication of evidence, obstruction of justice. Given the FBI investigation, she is also facing charges for financial crimes going back decades. Will she go to prison Almost certainly. Her lawyers will fight, but the evidence is overwhelming. She could spend the rest of her life behind bars. Elena thought about that. Victoria Hartwell, the woman who had terrorized her for 7 years, the woman who had framed her, humiliated her, tried to destroy her, in prison. Elena expected to feel satisfaction, vindication, triumph. But all she felt was tired. "I do not want revenge," she said softly. "I just want peace." Sarah smiled. "You will have it. After everything you have been through, you deserve peace." There was a knock at the door. Richard entered. "Sorry to interrupt. Lucas fell asleep in the car. He has been awake since 4 in the morning." Elena smiled. "He must be exhausted." "We all are." Richard sat down heavily. "It has been the longest day of my life." "How are you doing?" Sarah asked. "Your mother was just arrested. That cannot be easy." Richard was quiet for a long moment. "My mother has been controlling my life since the day I was born. She chose my schools, my career, my friends. She tried to choose my wife." His voice cracked. "Catherine was the only person I ever chose for myself. And when she died, I let my mother take control again. I let her push Elena out. I let her frame an innocent woman. I let her turn my son into a weapon." He looked at Elena. "I am ashamed of who I have been. I am ashamed that it took this long for me to stand up. But I am not going to be that person anymore." Elena reached out and touched his hand. "You did stand up, Richard. When it mattered most, you told the truth. That took courage." "It took Lucas. He showed me what courage really looks like." Richard smiled sadly. "My 8-year-old son is braver than I have ever been." "He learned from Elena," Sarah said. "She taught him that the truth matters, even when it is scary, even when it is hard." Richard nodded. "She taught him a lot of things I was too broken to teach him myself." He turned to Elena. "I know you probably want to get as far away from my family as possible. After everything we put you through, I would understand. But Lucas needs you. He loves you. And I—" Richard stopped. "What?" Elena asked. "I want you to come back, not as a housekeeper, as family." Elena stared at him. "Richard, I do not know. I am not asking you to marry me or anything like that. I am just asking you to stay in Lucas's life, and in mine." His voice softened. "Catherine asked you to love our son. You kept that promise better than anyone could have. I am asking you to keep it a little longer." Elena felt tears burning in her eyes. She thought about Lucas, his smile, his laugh, the way he called her Mama Elena. She thought about the promise she had made to Catherine 7 years ago. She thought about all the years she had spent alone with no family, no home, no one who loved her. "I will stay," she whispered, "for Lucas and for Catherine." Richard exhaled with relief. "Thank you. Thank you." Sarah cleared her throat. "There is one more thing we need to discuss." Elena and Richard both looked at her. "The media attention around this case has been enormous. Elena, you have become a symbol. People see you as someone who stood up against the powerful and won. I did not do it alone. I know. But that is how the public sees it." Sarah leaned forward. "You have an opportunity here, an opportunity to use your story to help others." "Well, what do you mean? There are thousands of domestic workers in this country who face the same kind of abuse you did. Wage theft, false accusations, exploitation. They have no voice, no power, no one to fight for them." Sarah paused. "You could be that voice. You could use your platform to advocate for their rights, to shine a light on the injustices they face." Elena was silent. She had never thought of herself as an advocate. She had never thought of herself as anything special. But she knew what it felt like to be powerless, to be invisible, to have no one believe you. If she could help even one person avoid that pain, maybe everything she had been through would mean something. "I do not know how to be an advocate," she said finally. "I do not know how to speak in public or deal with media." "You will learn. I will help you." Sarah smiled. "And you already know the most important thing." "What is that?" "You know how to tell the truth." Even when everyone is against you, even when it seems hopeless. Elena thought about that, the truth. That was all she had ever had. And in the end, it had been enough. "Okay," she said. "I will try." That evening, Elena stood outside the Hartwell mansion for the first time since her arrest. The gates were open. The security guards were gone. The FBI had finished their search hours ago, taking boxes of documents, computers, files. The mansion looked different now. Smaller somehow, less frightening. Richard appeared at the door. "Are you ready?" Elena nodded. She walked through the gates. She walked up the long driveway where she had once been dragged away in handcuffs. She walked through the front door that had slammed in her face. The house was quiet. Most of the staff had been sent home. Only a few essential workers remained. Elena walked through the halls she had cleaned for 7 years. She passed the kitchen where she had cooked thousands of meals. She passed the library where she had helped Lucas with his homework. She passed the staircase where he had come running down to say goodbye. Everything looked the same, but everything was different. She climbed the stairs to the second floor. Lucas's bedroom door was open. She looked inside. He was sitting on his bed holding a photograph. The photograph she had given him years ago, a picture of him and Elena at the zoo, both of them laughing. "Lucas," he looked up. His face broke into a smile. "Mama Elena, Dad said you were coming, but I was not sure." Elena sat down beside him on the bed. "I told you I would never leave you." "I know, but after everything that happened, I thought maybe—" "Maybe what?" Lucas looked down at the photograph. "Maybe you would not want to be around this family anymore, after what Grandma did to you." Elena lifted his chin so he could see her face. "Lucas, listen to me. What your grandmother did was wrong. It was cruel and hateful, and she will pay for it. But that has nothing to do with you. You are the bravest, kindest, most wonderful boy I have ever known." Her voice cracked. "You saved me, Lucas. When no one else believed me, you believed me. When everyone wanted me to give up, you gave me a reason to keep fighting." Tears rolled down Lucas's cheeks. "I just told the truth. That is the hardest thing in the world sometimes, and you did it anyway." She pulled him into a hug. "I am so proud of you. Your mother would be so proud of you." Lucas buried his face in her shoulder. "I miss her," he whispered. "I miss Mom." "I know, mi amor. I miss her too." They held each other for a long time. Finally, Lucas pulled back. "Mama Elena." "Yes. Are you going to stay?" Elena smiled through her tears. "Yes, Lucas, I am going to stay. Forever. Forever." Lucas hugged her again, and for the first time in months, Elena felt something she thought she had lost. Peace. Later that night, Elena stood on the balcony of the mansion, looking out at the stars. It was the same balcony where she had stood 7 years ago, the night Catherine asked her to love Lucas. So much had changed since then. Catherine was gone, Victoria was in prison, and Elena was no longer a housekeeper. She did not know what she was now. A mother, a survivor, an advocate. Maybe all of those things. Maybe something new entirely. Richard appeared beside her. "Beautiful night," he said. "Yes." They stood in silence for a moment. "I found something in my mother's office," Richard said finally. "A letter from Catherine." Elena looked at him. "A letter?" Richard pulled an envelope from his pocket. "She wrote it a few weeks before she died. It was sealed. I do not think my mother ever opened it." He handed the envelope to Elena. "It is addressed to you." Elena's hands trembled as she took the envelope. Her name was written on the front in Catherine's elegant handwriting. Elena. She opened it carefully. Inside was a single sheet of paper. She began to read. "Dear Elena, if you are reading this, it means I am gone. And it means that somehow, despite everything, you are still with my son. I knew you would be. I knew from the moment I met you that you had a mother's heart, that you would love Lucas the way I love him, that you would protect him when I no longer could. Thank you for keeping your promise. Thank you for loving my boy. Thank you for being the mother I could not be. I know my mother-in-law will make your life difficult. I know she will try to push you out. But please, Elena, Please stay. For Lucas, for Richard, for the family I dreamed we could be. You are stronger than you know. You are braver than you believe. And you are more loved than you will ever understand. Take care of my son. Take care of my husband. And take care of yourself. With all my love. Catherine Elena read the letter 3 times. Tears streamed down her face. Catherine had known. 7 years ago, Catherine had known that Victoria would try to destroy her, and she had believed that Elena would survive. Richard was watching her. What does it say? Elena folded the letter carefully and pressed it to her heart. It says that I am exactly where I am supposed to be. She looked up at the stars. It says, I am home. 6 months passed since the day Elena walked out of that courthouse a free woman. 6 months of healing, of rebuilding, of learning how to live without fear. The world had moved on to new scandals and new stories, but for Elena Martinez, every day still felt like a gift she did not deserve. She woke up each morning in a bedroom that used to belong to guests. Richard had insisted she move out of the servants' quarters on the day of the verdict. He said it was wrong for her to sleep in a closet-sized room while empty suites gathered dust upstairs. Elena had resisted at first. Old habits died hard. But Lucas had grabbed her hand and pulled her up the stairs himself, showing her the room he had picked out, the one with the window facing the garden. This is where you belong, Mama Elena, he had said, with us. So she stayed. The mansion felt different now. The heavy silence that had suffocated every room was gone. Laughter echoed through the hallways. Music played from Lucas's bedroom. The kitchen smelled like fresh bread and spices instead of sterile emptiness. Victoria's presence had been erased from every corner. Her photographs were removed. Her furniture was donated. Her office was converted into a playroom for Lucas. It was as if she had never existed. But she had existed. And on the morning of March 15th, Elena would have to face her one last time. Victoria's sentencing hearing was scheduled for 10 o'clock. Elena stood in front of her mirror, trying to button her blouse with trembling hands. She had not seen Victoria since that day in the courtroom when the FBI agents dragged her away in handcuffs. She did not want to see her again. But Sarah had asked her to come. The judge wanted to hear from the victim before passing sentence. The victim. Elena still could not think of herself that way. There was a knock at her door. Elena, are you ready? Richard's voice. Almost. She gave up on the buttons and opened the door. Richard stood in the hallway wearing a dark suit. His face was pale. He had aged 10 years in the past 6 months, carrying the weight of what his mother had done. You do not have to go, he said quietly. No one would blame you if you stayed home. I have to go. I need to see this through to the end. Richard nodded slowly. Then I will be right beside you. They walked downstairs together. Lucas was waiting by the front door dressed in his school uniform. He was supposed to be in class, but he had begged to come to the hearing. Richard had said no at first, but Elena had intervened. He has the right to see justice done, she had said. He earned that right. So Lucas was coming too. The 3 of them climbed into the car. The driver pulled away from the mansion and headed toward the courthouse. Lucas held Elena's hand the entire way. The courthouse was surrounded by reporters. News vans lined the street. Cameras flashed as Elena stepped out of the car. Journalists shouted questions that she did not answer. Elena, how do you feel about facing Victoria today? Elena, what sentence do you think she deserves? Elena, is it true you are writing a book about your experience? Sarah met them at the entrance and guided them through a side door away from the media circus. The judge will call you to speak after the prosecution presents their case, Sarah explained as they walked through the marble hallways. You do not have to say anything you do not want to. You can read a prepared statement or speak from the heart. It is your choice. Elena had spent weeks writing a statement. She had rewritten it a dozen times, trying to find the right words to describe what Victoria had done to her. In the end, she had torn up every draft. Some things could not be written down. They entered the courtroom. It was smaller than the one where Elena had been tried. More intimate. The gallery was packed with reporters and spectators, but the front row had been reserved for family. Elena took her seat. Richard sat beside her. Lucas sat on her other side, his small hand still clutching hers. The door at the back of the courtroom opened. Victoria Hartwell entered in handcuffs. Elena's breath caught. Victoria looked nothing like the woman who had ruled the Hartwell empire with an iron fist. Her silver hair had turned white. Her designer clothes had been replaced by an orange jumpsuit. Her proud posture had collapsed into something hunched and broken. But when Victoria's eyes found Elena across the room, they still burned with hatred. Elena did not look away. Victoria was led to the defendant's table. Her new lawyer, a public defender, half Theodore Morrison's age, sat beside her looking overwhelmed. The judge entered. "All rise." Everyone stood. The judge took his seat and called the court to order. "We are here today for the sentencing of Victoria Ann Hartwell, who has been convicted of fraud fabrication, of evidence obstruction of justice, and witness tampering." The judge's voice was cold. "Before I pass sentence, I will hear from both parties. Ms. Chen, please call your first speaker." Sarah stood. "Your Honor, the prosecution calls Elena Martinez." Elena's legs felt like water as she walked to the witness stand. She could feel Victoria's eyes boring into her back. She could feel the weight of every camera, every reporter's pen, every spectator's stare. She sat down and faced the courtroom. Sarah approached her gently. "Ms. Martinez, in your own words, please tell the court how Victoria Hartwell's actions affected your life." Elena took a deep breath. She had planned to read her statement. She had planned to be calm and professional. But when she opened her mouth, something else came out. "7 years ago, a dying woman asked me to love her son. She asked me to protect him. She asked me to be the mother she could no longer be." Elena's voice cracked. "I kept that promise. I loved Lucas with everything I had. I woke up before dawn to make his breakfast. I stayed up late to help with his homework. I held him when he cried for the mother he barely remembered. I gave him everything I had to give." She looked at Victoria. "And you tried to destroy me for it." Victoria's face was stone. "You accused me of stealing something I never touched. You had me arrested in front of the child I raised like my own. You dragged my name through the mud. You turned the whole country against me." Elena's voice grew stronger. "For weeks, I could not leave my apartment without being called a thief. I received death threats. Strangers told me I deserved to rot in prison. I lost everything: my job, my reputation, my dignity." She leaned forward. "But you did not break me. You tried, but you failed, because I had something you never had. I had the truth. I had people who believed in me. I had a little boy who walked 5 miles in the middle of the night just to tell me he knew I was innocent." Tears streamed down Elena's face. "You wanted to take everything from me. Instead, you gave me something I never had. You gave me a family. You gave me a purpose. You showed me how strong I really am." Elena stood up. "I am not asking for revenge, Your Honor. I am not asking for Victoria to suffer the way I suffered. I am only asking for justice. I am asking for the world to see what happens when powerful people abuse their power. I am asking for every domestic worker, every immigrant, every person who has ever been silenced by the wealthy and the connected, to know that the truth can win." She looked directly at Victoria. "You thought you were untouchable. You thought your money and your name would protect you forever. But you were wrong, and now you have to answer for what you did." Elena walked back to her seat. The courtroom was silent. Lucas squeezed her hand as she sat down. "You were amazing," he whispered. Elena could not speak. She just held his hand and waited. The judge called Richard to speak next. Richard walked to the witness stand slowly. He looked at his mother, then looked away. "Your Honor, I do not know what to say that has not already been said." His voice was hollow. "My mother raised me to believe that our family was special, that we were better than other people, that our name gave us the right to do whatever we wanted." He shook his head. "I believed her. I believed her when she said Elena was guilty. I believed her when she said Lucas was confused. I believed her because I had spent my entire life believing everything she told me." Richard's voice cracked. "My wife saw through her. Catherine knew what my mother really was. She tried to warn me, but I did not listen. And when Catherine died, I let my mother take control again. I let her hurt an innocent woman. I let her terrorize my son." He looked at Elena. "I can never undo what my silence caused. I can never give Elena back the months she spent in fear. I can never erase the trauma my son experienced." Richard turned back to the judge. "But I can make sure my mother is held accountable. I can make sure she never hurts anyone again." He took a deep breath. "I am asking for the maximum sentence, Your Honor. Not because I hate my mother, but because I finally understand that love is not obedience. Love is doing what is right, even when it is hard, even when it means standing against your own family." Richard stepped down. Victoria was given the opportunity to speak. She rose slowly. The handcuffs clinked as she adjusted her position. "Your Honor, I have nothing to say in my defense." The courtroom stirred with surprise. "I did what I did. I have my reasons. History will judge whether I was right or wrong." She sat back down. The judge frowned. "Mrs. Hartwell, this is your opportunity to express remorse, to explain your actions, to appeal to the mercy of this court." Victoria laughed. It was a cold, bitter sound. "Mercy. You want me to beg for mercy from a system that has been corrupted by weakness and sentimentality." She looked at Elena. "That woman was a servant. She should have known her place. Instead, she manipulated my son and poisoned my grandson against me. Everything I did to protect my family." The judge's face hardened. "Mrs. Hartwell, your lack of remorse is noted." He turned to his papers. "I have reviewed the evidence in this case. I have heard from the victims. I have considered the defendant's history and the severity of her crimes." He looked up. "Victoria Ann Hartwell, you used your wealth and power to destroy an innocent woman's life. You fabricated evidence. You bribed officials. You intimidated witnesses. You showed complete disregard for the truth and for the justice system you swore to respect." His voice grew stern. "You are hereby sentenced to 15 years in federal prison with no possibility of parole for 10 years. You are ordered to pay full restitution to Elena Martinez, including all legal fees, lost wages, and damages for emotional distress. Additionally, you are banned from any contact with your grandson, Lucas Hartwell, until he reaches the age of majority." Victoria went pale. "No contact, you cannot do that. He is my grandson." "I can and I will. Your influence over that child has been toxic and harmful. He deserves the chance to grow up without your manipulation." The judge banged his gavel. "This court is adjourned." The bailiffs moved to take Victoria away. She turned and looked at Lucas one last time. "Lucas," she called out, "remember who you are. Remember your blood. Do not let them turn you against your own family." Lucas stood up. Everyone in the courtroom fell silent. The 8-year-old boy looked at his grandmother with eyes far older than his years. "You are not my family," he said clearly. "Family does not hurt each other. Family does not lie. Mama Elena taught me that." Victoria's face twisted. "That woman is not your mother." "Yes, she is," Lucas said. "She is more my mother than you ever were." The bailiffs pulled Victoria through the door. Her screams echoed down the hallway until they faded into silence. Lucas sat back down and put his head on Elena's shoulder. "Is it really over?" he asked quietly. Elena wrapped her arm around him. "Yes, mi amor. It is really over." 1 year later. Elena stood at a podium in front of 300 people. Behind her was a banner that read, "The Martinez Foundation, Fighting for Justice." 1 year ago, she had been a housekeeper accused of theft. Today, she was the executive director of a nonprofit organization that provided legal aid to domestic workers facing wrongful accusations. The foundation had been Sarah's idea. After the trial donations had poured in from around the country, people wanted to support Elena to be part of her story. Richard had contributed the startup funding, but the rest had come from ordinary people who had been moved by her fight. In its first year, the Martinez Foundation had helped 47 domestic workers fight false accusations. They had won 39 cases. They had changed laws in 3 states. They had given a voice to people who had none. Elena looked out at the crowd. She saw Sarah in the front row, beaming with pride. She saw Richard beside her, holding Lucas's hand. She saw the faces of workers she had helped, people who had been as desperate and afraid as she once was. 1 year ago, I stood in a courtroom and waited to hear if I would spend the rest of my life in prison for a crime I did not commit, Elena began. I had no money, no power, no voice. I was just a housekeeper from Mexico who had been accused by a billionaire. She paused. But I was not alone. I had a lawyer who believed in me when no one else did. I had a man who found the courage to stand against his own mother. And I had a little boy who reminded me that the truth is always worth fighting for. Elena smiled at Lucas. Today we celebrate the first anniversary of the Martinez Foundation. But more importantly, we celebrate every person in this room who has fought for justice, every worker who refused to be silenced, every lawyer who took a case for free, every donor who gave what they could to help strangers they would never meet. Her voice rose. We are told that the system is rigged, that the rich always win, that people like us can never beat people like them. She shook her head. I am proof that is not true. Every case we have won is proof that is not true. Every voice we have amplified, every wrong we have righted, every family we have kept together is proof that is not true. Elena stepped back from the podium. The truth can win. Justice can prevail. And no matter how powerful they are, the people who try to destroy us will eventually face the consequences of their actions. She looked at the crowd. Never give up, never stop fighting, and never forget that you are not alone. The audience erupted in applause. Elena stepped down from the stage. Lucas ran to her immediately and threw his arms around her waist. That was amazing, Mama Elena. Thank you, mi amor. Richard approached more slowly. You have come a long way from the woman who used to clean my library. Elena smiled. That woman is still here. She just has better clothes now. Richard laughed. It was a real laugh, something she had rarely heard from him before the trial. Elena, can I talk to you for a moment privately? Elena nodded. She followed Richard to a quiet corner of the ballroom. What is it? Richard reached into his jacket and pulled out an envelope. I found this today, in my father's old files. I have been going through his papers trying to understand who he really was. He handed her the envelope. Elena opened it. Inside was a photograph and a letter. The photograph showed a young woman in a maid's uniform standing beside an older man in a suit. They were smiling at each other. That is my father, Richard said. And that woman worked for our family when I was very young. Her name was Maria. Elena looked at the letter. It was written in Spanish. What does it say? I had it translated. Richard's voice was quiet. Maria wrote to my father thanking him for helping her when she was falsely accused of theft by another wealthy family. He paid for her lawyer. He testified on her behalf. He saved her life. Elena stared at the photograph. Your father helped someone like me. Apparently he did. My mother never told me. She probably destroyed any evidence she could find. Richard paused. My father was not a perfect man, but he understood something my mother never did. He understood that people deserve justice no matter where they come from. Elena felt tears burning in her eyes. Why are you showing me this? Because I want you to know that what you are doing, this foundation, this mission, it matters. My father would have been proud to see it, and I am proud to be part of it. Elena looked at the photograph one more time. The young woman in the maid's uniform, the man who had helped her. What happened to Maria? I do not know. The trail goes cold after the trial. But wherever she is, she lived because someone believed in her. Elena tucked the photograph and letter back into the envelope. Thank you for showing me this. Thank you for showing me who I should be. They walked back to the party together. 2 years later, Elena sat in the living room of the Hartwell mansion surrounded by boxes. She was packing. Again. But this time it was different. This time she was packing to move into her own home. Richard had bought her a house 3 blocks away, a small cottage with a garden just big enough for her. He said it was a thank you for everything she had done. She said it was too much. He said it was not nearly enough. Lucas appeared in the doorway. He was 10 years old now, tall for his age, with his mother's eyes and his father's serious expression. "You are really leaving?" he asked. "I am only moving 3 blocks away. You can visit me every day." "It will not be the same." Elena put down the box she was holding and walked over to him. "Lucas, look at me." He looked up. "I am not leaving you. I could never leave you. I promised your mother I would love you forever, and I meant it." "Then why are you moving?" "Because it is time for me to have my own space, and it is time for you and your father to have yours." She smiled. "You are growing up, mi amor. You do not need me the way you used to. I will always need you, and I will always be here. Always." Lucas hugged her tight. "Promise. Promise." That evening, Elena stood in the doorway of her new home for the first time. It was small, simple, nothing like the mansion she had left behind. But it was hers. She walked through the rooms, slowly touching the walls, the counters, the windows. She thought about the journey that had brought her here. The 15 years of hard work, the 7 years at the Hartwell mansion, the months of terror and humiliation, the trial, the victory, the foundation. She thought about Catherine, who had trusted her with the most precious thing in the world. She thought about Lucas, who had saved her with his courage. She thought about Sarah, who had believed in her when no one else did. She thought about Richard, who had found his voice at last. And she thought about herself, the woman she had been, the woman she had become. There was a knock at the door. Elena opened it. Sarah stood on the porch holding a bottle of wine and a card. "Housewarming gift," she said with a grin. Elena laughed and pulled her into a hug. "Come in. Tell me everything." They sat in Elena's small living room and talked for hours about the foundation, about the cases they had won, about the lives they had changed, about the future they were building. "You know what I realized today?" Sarah said as the evening grew late. "What?" 3 years ago, I was a nobody lawyer who could not get a job at a real firm. Today, I am the legal director of a foundation that has helped hundreds of people, and it is all because of you. Elena shook her head. "It is because of both of us. I could not have done any of this without you." "Maybe not, but you were the one who stood up when everyone told you to sit down. You were the one who refused to give up when the whole world was against you." Sarah raised her glass. "To Elena Martinez, the bravest woman I know." Elena raised her glass too. "To the truth, may it always win." They drank, 3 years later. Lucas graduated from middle school at the top of his class. Elena sat in the front row of the auditorium, watching him walk across the stage to receive his diploma. Richard sat beside her, wiping tears from his eyes. "He is so grown up," Richard whispered. "Catherine would be so proud." "She is proud," Elena said. "She is watching. I know she is." After the ceremony, Lucas found them in the crowd. "You came," he said to Elena, as if there had ever been any doubt. "I would not miss this for the world." Lucas looked at her for a long moment. "Mama Elena, can I ask you something? Anything?" "I am giving a speech at the graduation dinner tonight. I wrote something, but I want to make sure it is okay with you first." "Why would it not be okay?" Lucas handed her a piece of paper. Elena read it slowly. When she finished, she was crying. "Is it okay?" Lucas asked nervously. Elena pulled him into a hug. "It is perfect, mi amor. It is perfect." That night, Lucas stood at the podium in front of his classmates and their families. "Most people know my story," he began. "My grandmother tried to frame my nanny for stealing a diamond. My nanny was almost sent to prison. I testified in court when I was 8 years old." He paused. "But that is not the story I want to tell tonight." He looked at Elena. "I want to tell you about the woman who raised me. Her name is Elena Martinez. She came to this country with nothing. She worked jobs that most people would refuse. She cleaned houses and cooked meals and took care of other people's children." Lucas's voice grew stronger.
When my mother was dying, she asked Elena to love me. Elena kept that promise. She was there for every nightmare, every homework assignment, every scraped knee. She taught me to tell the truth even when it is scary. She taught me to stand up for what is right even when everyone is against you. Tears rolled down his cheeks. When my grandmother accused her of theft, Elena did not run. She did not hide. She did not give up. She stood in front of the whole world and said, "I am innocent." And she kept saying it until everyone believed her.
Lucas looked at his classmates. We are going to face challenges in our lives. We are going to face people who try to tear us down. We are going to face moments when it would be easier to give up. He shook his head. Do not give up, ever. Because the truth always wins in the end. Justice always prevails. And no matter how powerful the people against you are, they can never take away who you really are. He looked at Elena one more time. I love you, Mama Elena. Thank you for teaching me how to be brave. The auditorium exploded in applause. Elena could not move, could not speak, could not do anything but cry. Richard put his arm around her. He is amazing, Richard said. He is Catherine's son, Elena whispered. He is exactly who she hoped he would be. 5 years later. Elena received a letter. It came from a prison in upstate New York. The return address said, Victoria Hartwell. Elena stared at the envelope for a long time. She had not heard from Victoria in years, had not thought about her much either. Victoria had become a ghost, a bad memory that faded more each day. But now here was her handwriting, her name reaching out from behind bars. Elena's first instinct was to throw the letter away unopened. But something made her tear open the envelope. Inside was a single sheet of paper. Elena, I am dying. Cancer. The doctors say I have 3 months, maybe less. I am not writing to apologize. I still believe I was protecting my family. I still believe you took something that was not yours to take. But I have had 5 years to think about what I did. 5 years alone in a cell with nothing but my memories and my regrets. I destroyed my son's trust. I lost my grandson forever. I threw away everything that mattered for something that never did. I wanted to control everything. I wanted to be remembered as the woman who built an empire. Instead, I will be remembered as the woman who tried to destroy an innocent person. I do not expect forgiveness. I do not deserve it. I am only writing because I need to say one thing before I die. Lucas was right. You are more his mother than I ever was. Take care of him. Victoria. Elena read the letter twice. She did not know what to feel. Anger. Sadness. Pity. In the end, she felt nothing at all. Victoria Hartwell was dying. The woman who had terrorized her, humiliated her, nearly destroyed her, was going to die alone in a prison cell. But Elena was alive. Elena was free. Elena had a family, a purpose, a future. She folded the letter and put it in a drawer. Then she went outside to water her garden. 6 months later, Victoria died in prison. Richard paid for a small funeral. Elena did not attend. Lucas did not attend either. She made her choices, Lucas said when Richard told him. I made mine. Elena was proud of him. Catherine would have been proud too, 10 years after the trial. Elena stood in the back of a ballroom at the annual Martinez Foundation Gala. $100 million. That was how much the foundation had raised over the past decade. $100 million to defend workers who had been falsely accused, to fight for justice, to prove that truth could win. Sarah was the keynote speaker now. She had become one of the most respected civil rights lawyers in the country. Every major firm wanted her, but she stayed with the foundation. She said it was where she belonged. Lucas was there too. He was 18 now, about to start college. He had been accepted to Yale Law School's pre-law program. He wanted to be a lawyer like Sarah. He wanted to spend his life fighting for people who had no voice. Richard stood beside Elena, watching their son work the room. He is something else, Richard said. He is Catherine's legacy, Elena replied. And yours, and maybe a little bit mine. Richard looked at her. More than a little bit. He was quiet for a moment. Elena, I never properly thanked you. For what? For everything. For raising Lucas when I could not. For standing up to my mother when I would not. For forgiving me when you had every right not to. Elena smiled. You do not need to thank me. We are family. Richard nodded slowly. Yes, we are. Lucas appeared at their side. They want to take a photo of all of us together for the Foundation newsletter. Elena laughed. My face has been in enough newsletters for one lifetime. Too bad. You are the star of this show. Lucas grabbed her hand and pulled her toward the photographer. Come on, Mama Elena. Smile for the camera. Elena smiled. Not because the camera was watching, but because for the first time in her life, she was exactly where she was supposed to be. 20 years after the trial. Elena sat on the porch of her cottage watching the sunset. She was 65 years old now. Her hair had turned gray. Her hands had grown wrinkled. Her body moved slower than it used to, but her heart was full. Lucas was 30 years old. He was a civil rights lawyer just like he had always dreamed. He had a wife and a daughter. He brought them to visit Elena every Sunday for dinner. Sarah was a federal judge now. She had been appointed by the president himself, a testament to everything she had accomplished. Richard had retired from the family business. He spent his days volunteering at the foundation, helping workers who reminded him of Elena. And Elena spent her days in her garden, surrounded by flowers, watching the world go by. She had lived a life she never expected. She had faced challenges she never imagined. She had lost everything and gained so much more. There was a knock at her door. She got up slowly and walked inside. Lucas stood on her porch, holding his daughter in his arms. Surprise, he said with a grin. We came early. You are always welcome early, Elena said, reaching for the little girl. Come here, mi amor. Come to Abuela Elena. The child giggled and reached for her. Elena held her close, breathing in the sweet smell of baby shampoo and innocence. She has your eyes, Elena said to Lucas. She has your strength, Lucas replied. They sat together on the porch, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of gold and pink. Mama Elena, Lucas said quietly. Yes, mi amor. Thank you. For what? Lucas was quiet for a moment. For everything. For raising me. For loving me. For showing me what courage looks like. Elena smiled. I made a promise to your mother. I kept it. You did more than keep a promise. You changed my life. You changed all our lives. Elena looked at the little girl in her arms, at the man her boy had become, at the family she had built from nothing. Your mother asked me to love you, she said softly. I did not know then what that would mean. I did not know how much joy and pain and fear and hope I would feel. She looked at Lucas. But I would do it all again, every moment, every tear, every struggle, because loving you, Lucas, loving your father, loving this family, that is the greatest thing I have ever done. Lucas reached out and took her hand. I love you, Mama Elena. I love you too, mi amor, forever and always. They sat together as the sun disappeared below the horizon. The sky grew dark. The stars came out. The world fell silent. And Elena Martinez, the housekeeper from Mexico, who had become so much more, closed her eyes and smiled. She had been falsely accused. She had been dragged through the mud. She had faced the power of the wealthy and the cruel. But she had never given up. She had never stopped fighting. She had never stopped believing that the truth would win, and it had. The truth had won. Justice had been served, and in the end, love had been the greatest victory of all. Because that is what Elena Martinez learned in her 65 years on this earth. Money cannot buy loyalty. Power cannot crush courage. And no matter how hard the world tries to break you, there is always a way back to the light. You just have to keep fighting. You just have to keep believing. You just have to hold on to the truth and never, ever let go.